I should have known the night would go sideways the moment I walked through those overpriced glass doors. The place was crawling with fake smiles and champagne breath. Corporate people clinking glasses like they actually liked each other. My wife, Jessica, had told me it was just a formal dinner at her firm. Nothing exciting, she said, rolling her eyes like I was annoying her just for asking. But when I got there, I froze. There she was. Jessica, my wife, mother of our twins. Wearing a short red dress she said she threw away months ago because it was too much for a mother. Sitting on her boss's lap like she forgot who she married. Her heels dangled in the air as she laughed with her head thrown back, fingers tracing his neck. Her wedding ring flashed under the crystal lights, mocking me. I didn't shout. I didn't lose it. I walked straight up to them. Her boss, Cole Matthews, regional VP and serial sleazebag, grinned like he owned her. Well, the babysitter made it out, he said, eyes scanning my cheap blazer. I didn't blink. Your kids are at home, I said, my voice colder than January. And you're here cheating, dancing on your boss's lap? Jessica turned her head toward me and smirked. I swear, she smirked like I was a joke. Security, she purred, still sitting on him. Throw him out. Don't wait for me at home, Jason. I laughed. Just once. It was the kind of laugh that comes from something deeper than pain. You serious right now? I said. You're really doing this here? Cole shoved me lightly in the chest. Get out, loser. She wants a real man. And that's when it snapped. I'm not proud of what happened next. But I won't apologize either. The bodyguard stepped forward, big guy, bald head, face like a stone wall. I moved before he touched me. Years in the Marines don't fade. One elbow, his front teeth scattered like broken dice across the marble. He groaned and fell like a felled tree. The second one hesitated. Mistake. I twisted his wrist, slammed his head into a nearby table. Glass shattered. People screamed. Champagne flutes clattered like alarm bells. Jessica screamed too, but not for me. What the F*** is wrong with you? She shrieked, standing now, grabbing her purse like she was the victim. What's wrong with me? I hissed, breathing heavy. I worked double shifts to pay for your car. I missed my brother's wedding cause the twins had the flu and you were on a spa retreat with your girls. I trusted you. She didn't look sorry. She didn't cry. She crossed her arms and said the words I'll never forget. I compared you to my ex-husband once in an argument, and you packed your stuff that night and vanished. Maybe you should have stayed gone. I stood there, chest heaving, blood on my knuckles, shame in my mouth like metal. Then I turned and walked out. No more words. No more begging. Just like that, I disappeared from her life. But don't think for a second that this was over. This was the beginning of something much darker. Because betrayal like that? It demands a reckoning. I drove all night after leaving that party. Didn't even go home. Just kept pushing the gas like I could outrun what I saw. But nothing numbs the image of your wife on another man's lap. The sun was creeping over the horizon when I finally parked in front of my brother Ryan's place. He opened the door half asleep, took one look at my face, and without asking a single question, just said, "She did it, didn't she?" I didn't answer. I didn't have to. The next few days were a blur. Rage and disbelief wrestled inside me constantly. I'd sit with the twins, Caleb and Mia, watching cartoons while trying not to let my hands shake. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't stop replaying that moment. Her laugh, that smug grin on her boss's face. And then something clicked. This hadn't started at that party. No, that was just the moment the curtain dropped. The signs had been everywhere. I just didn't want to see them. Like how she started wearing perfume to grocery runs. Or how her phone suddenly had a password. She used to leave it lying around like a coaster. Now, it was always face down. Always locked. And if I asked why, she'd snap, "You don't trust me?" God, the gaslighting. She stopped initiating intimacy months ago. "I'm tired," she'd say. Or, "The kids wore me out." But now I realized it wasn't exhaustion, it was disgust. She didn't want me anymore. I remembered the way she'd flinch when I touched her shoulder, how her eyes would roll when I tried to plan date nights. And the biggest red flag? The business trips. 3 in the last 2 months. 1 in Miami. 1 in San Diego. 1, allegedly, in Boston. She came back glowing. Literally glowing. And when I asked her what the trip was for, she waved it off like I was a child. "You wouldn't understand, Jason. It's just office politics. Bullshasters tea." I bet she wasn't attending any meetings. Not the kind that happened around a table, anyway. Fueled by anger, I made the decision to dig deeper. The first thing I did was check our shared credit card account. She never used her personal one for anything sketchy. She wasn't dumb. But she must have slipped up. And there it was. A luxury hotel booked for 2 nights in San Diego. Room service for 2. Champagne. Spa treatments. A single red rose ordered to the room. I screenshot everything. Then I opened her laptop. She never logged out of her emails. That was her mistake. Inside was an unsent draft. Just sitting there, like it was begging me to open it. I can't stop thinking about the way you grabbed me behind the elevator. It's wrong, but it feels so right. I love Jason, but with you, I feel alive. I slammed the screen shut. Alive? She felt alive cheating on the man who held her hair back while she vomited through morning sickness, who sold his guitar to pay for Caleb's surgery, who loved her even when she didn't deserve it. That was the moment the pain turned into something else. Not hate. Not yet. Clarity. She made her choice long before that party. And now I had to make mine. I grabbed my phone and hit record. Then I opened the laptop again and read the email out loud. Slowly. Clearly. I was going to keep every receipt. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was war. 3 days after the party, I walked through the front door like a ghost. It still smelled like her favorite lavender candles. The kids' shoes were by the staircase. Their drawings were stuck to the fridge. A home pretending everything was normal. But nothing was normal anymore. Jessica came in 10 minutes later, dressed in one of her tight work skirts, fake concern plastered across her face. She froze when she saw me. "You're back," she said, voice cautious. I didn't answer. Just placed the printed emails, hotel receipts, and screenshots on the dining table. Her eyes flicked down, then back up. "What's this?" she asked, but her voice was already defensive. "You tell me," I said, leaning against the counter, arms crossed. "Go ahead, Jessica. Read it out loud. Especially the part about how he makes you feel alive." She didn't touch the papers. Just stood there, arms folded, like she was the one betrayed. "You went through my emails," she snapped. "You violated my privacy?" I almost laughed. "Privacy? You're lucky I didn't walk in on you two mid-thrust." Her lips curled into a sneer. "Oh, grow up. Not everything revolves around your fragile ego, Jason." That hit harder than a punch. But I didn't flinch. I refused to give her the satisfaction. "You lied to me. You danced on another man's lap at a company event. You've been screwing around during fake work trips. And now you're playing the victim." Jessica sighed dramatically, as if I were exhausting her. "Fine. You want the truth." She walked over to the table and flipped through the papers with her manicured fingers. "Yes. I cheated. Yes. It's been going on for months. And no, I'm not sorry." I blinked. "Not sorry." She actually rolled her eyes. "Jason, you stopped being a man years ago. You became this boring, predictable routine. Work, kids, sleep. You never touched me like you used to. Never made me feel wanted." I could feel the heat behind my eyes, the shaking in my hands. "I was busy raising our family, holding this damn house together while you were playing hooky with your boss." She gave a bitter little laugh. "Cole treats me like a queen. He doesn't come home smelling like oil and stress. He doesn't nag me about groceries or fall asleep in front of the TV like some suburban zombie." "Wow," I said softly. "You really are something else." She crossed her arms, lifted her chin. "I'm done pretending. If you want to leave, leave. But don't act like you're some saint in this. You stop trying. This marriage died long ago." "No, Jessica," I said, stepping forward. "You killed it. With every lie, every text, every fake excuse." She didn't back away. "So what now? You gonna cry? Break something? Hit me?" I shook my head. "No, I'm not like your boss's hired muscle. I don't need to break things. I just need you to know, everything changes now." "What's that supposed to mean?" I didn't answer. I walked past her, upstairs, and into our bedroom. I opened the safe, pulled out the folder I had prepared, bank account numbers, passwords, legal contacts. I grabbed the burner phone I'd bought. When I came back down, she was on the couch, pretending to scroll her phone, pretending not to care. "I'll be sending divorce papers this week," I said. "I'll fight for the kids. You can keep the lies." She looked up, smirking. "You think they'll want to live with you? Good luck." That was the moment I stopped loving her. Not because she cheated, not even because she lied, but because she looked me in the eye, after everything we'd been through, and still believed she was the hero of this story. She had no idea what was coming next. That night, I didn't sleep. Not because I couldn't, but because I refused to. Lying in the guest room, I stared at the ceiling, listening to Jessica move around the bedroom we used to share. Her footsteps. The occasional click of her phone screen lighting up. Her soft laugh at God knows what or who. It was like sleeping in a haunted house, every sound a reminder of what used to be mine, now corrupted. I didn't cry. I wish I had. Tears might have helped. Instead, my chest felt like it was filled with wet cement. Everything heavy. Every breath a struggle. Around 3:12 a.m., I heard a knock on the door. I didn't answer. She came in anyway, wearing one of those silky robes she only ever put on when she wanted something. I didn't mean for you to find out like that, she said quietly, leaning against the door frame. I didn't look at her. You mean, you didn't want to be embarrassed? Her tone shifted, sharp, defensive. I didn't plan this, Jason. It just happened. Don't insult my intelligence. She scoffed. God, you act like I'm some monster. I sat up slowly. My voice was calm, flat. You are. Her face twitched. You don't know what it's like to feel invisible in your own home. Every day, I woke up next to a man who was emotionally dead. You gave me nothing. My hands clenched the sheets. I gave you everything. No, she snapped. You gave me duties. You gave me chores. You gave me father of my kids' energy, not husband energy. You mean I gave you stability while you chased thrills behind my back? Her mouth opened, then closed. She had no comeback. I know about the Miami trip, I said. You weren't with coworkers. You were with him. She turned pale. Finally, a flicker of guilt. You even took his calls in the bathroom. Remember that? You'd forget to mute. I heard enough. Jess? Jason, please. No. Stop. I stood, walked past her, and stared down at the hallway. You made your choices. You don't get to stand here now and play the abandoned wife. She moved toward me, maybe to grab my hand, maybe to cry. I'll never know. I stepped back. Don't, I said. You don't touch me anymore unless it's to stab me in the back. And you've done enough of that. Her voice cracked for the first time. I was lonely. So was I. I roared, spinning around. But I didn't run into someone else's arms every time life got hard. You think I didn't feel invisible? You think I didn't notice when you stopped laughing at my jokes, when you sighed every time I tried to kiss you? We stood there in silence. Her lip trembled. Mine bled. I hadn't even noticed I'd bitten it. Then she whispered, I don't love you anymore. And that was it. No dramatic fight. No screaming match. Just that one sentence, clean and final. She left the room, her footsteps quieter now. I sat down, alone in the silence. She didn't love me anymore. But I realized something as the door clicked shut behind her. I didn't love her anymore either. And that truth? It was the first real breath I'd taken in days. The next morning, I woke up early, even though I hadn't slept more than a couple of hours. My body felt heavy, like it was dragging every moment of the last few days behind it. But my mind? Crystal clear. I had made my decision. There was no fixing this. No therapy, no counseling session, no grand gesture that could undo the damage Jessica had done. She wasn't sorry. Not really. She had said it all herself. She felt alive with someone else. Not with me. So now, it was my turn to feel alive. I made coffee, not for her. Just one cup. Sat at the kitchen table and stared at the photos still hanging on the wall, family vacations, birthdays, Caleb's first lost tooth, Mia's first day of school. And in every one of those photos, I looked proud. Tired, but proud. Jessica looked posed. Even in the happy shots, I could see it now. Her smile didn't reach her eyes. While I sipped my coffee, she finally came downstairs. Same robe. Same stone-cold face. Like the words she whispered the night before meant nothing. So what now? She asked flatly. I already told you, I said. Lawyers drafting the papers. You'll be served soon. I'll fight for the kids. You can keep the house. Her eyes narrowed. Oh, how generous of you. I set my mug down. I'm not being generous. I just don't want anything soaked in your perfume or your lies. I want peace. She laughed bitterly. Good luck finding peace living in your brother's garage. And just like that, her true colors kept bleeding through. No remorse. No gratitude. Just venom. I smiled calmly. Actually, I'm not going to Ryan's. Oh? You moving in with your mistress? She spat. The irony almost made me laugh. I don't have one. I was too busy working 2 jobs while you were too busy getting off in hotel rooms. Her jaw clenched. But I didn't stop. I've been setting up a new apartment. Signed the lease yesterday. It's closer to the kids' school. I'll file for primary custody. You're out of your mind if you think they'll give you custody, she said, crossing her arms. They need their mother. I leaned forward, my voice low and controlled. They need stability. They need someone who doesn't disappear for weekends of team building and come back smelling like a stranger. For the first time, she didn't respond. Just stared at me like she was trying to figure out how I'd slipped out of her control. I didn't owe her an explanation, but I wanted her to know one last thing. I didn't walk away because I was weak, I said. I walked away because staying would have destroyed me, and I won't let you have that kind of power over me anymore. With that, I walked upstairs, packed the last of my things, and came down holding the duffel bag she used to borrow for yoga retreats that were probably never yoga. As I opened the front door, she spoke again, quiet this time. They'll hate you. One day, they'll grow up and hate you for leaving. I turned to her, the morning light cutting a sharp line between us. No, I said. They'll grow up and know that their father chose truth over comfort. And maybe one day, when they ask why we're not together, I'll show them the receipts. I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't slam the door. Some bridges don't need to be burned. They collapse under the weight of their own lies. The apartment was small. 2 bedrooms, no view, carpet that crunched a little under your steps, but it was mine. The first night I spent there, surrounded by unopened boxes and cheap furniture, I sat on the floor and let the silence wrap around me. It wasn't peaceful at first. It was loud, deafening. Not the kind of silence you find in nature. This was the kind that screamed everything you didn't say, everything she didn't say. The kind that made your skin crawl with thoughts that started with what if and ended with you weren't enough. I checked my phone. No new messages. Of course not. Jessica hadn't texted, hadn't called, hadn't even pretended to care that I was gone. It was like I'd been deleted. I ordered cheap takeout, ate half of it, and left the rest on the counter. I wasn't hungry. My stomach had been in knots for weeks. I looked in the mirror later that night and realized I'd lost at least 10 pounds. My face looked hollow, older. I'd been dying inside while she was out there glowing in red dresses, sipping cocktails on balconies. But even in the middle of that emotional wreckage, there was a tiny ember of clarity. I was free. Not healed, not okay, but free. That night, I didn't cry. But I did something worse. I remembered. I remembered the first time I met her. Jessica was electric back then. Eyes full of challenge, lips always curled in a half smile like she knew something I didn't. She made me feel alive. Back then, I thought she was complicated. Now I know she was just selfish dressed in charm. The first year of our marriage? Pure bliss. The third? Distance. The fifth? Suspicion. The eighth? Lies. And the ninth? That was the year she stopped pretending. My mind wandered to the twins. Caleb and Mia. My whole damn world. How was I supposed to explain to them that their mother traded love for lust? That she gave up a family to feel alive in hotel rooms? That their father was the one cleaning up the emotional fallout while she danced away without consequences? I knew I couldn't. Not yet. But I would. The next morning, I started putting pieces of my life back together. Slowly. Carefully. First call, my lawyer. Second, child psychologist. Third, Caleb and Mia's school. I asked about after-school activities, parent-teacher meetings, any updates. I wanted them to know their father was going to be present. I spent that week filing paperwork, signing things I never thought I'd have to sign. Divorce. Custody requests. Bank closures. Each document felt like a shovel full of dirt burying the life I thought I had. By Friday, I got the first text from Jessica. The kids are asking where you are. I told them you needed space. I didn't reply. The next one came an hour later. Don't make this uglier than it has to be. That one made me smile. Coming from the woman who had security throw me out of her office party, that was rich. I put my phone down and stared out the window. The view was just a brick wall, but it was honest. Unlike her. That night, I slept a little better. Because I knew something she didn't. The silence she tried to punish me with? It wasn't punishment. It was peace. By the second week in the apartment, Jessica finally realized I wasn't playing her game anymore. She went from silence to control tactics real fast. I'd been expecting it, honestly. I knew her too well. She'd never let anyone walk away from her without trying to pull the strings one more time. The first move was subtle. A video call request at 7 p.m. sharp. That's when she usually put the twins to bed. She knew I missed them. She was counting on it. I answered. Caleb's little face lit up. Dad, are you coming home tonight? My chest cracked, but I smiled through it. No, buddy. But I'll see you this weekend, remember? We're gonna hit that new arcade. Mia jumped into the frame. Can we get ice cream too? You bet. Chocolate swirl. She nodded fast, her pigtails bouncing. Jessica stood in the background, arms crossed, face unreadable. I noticed her phone was propped up perfectly like a damn movie set. And her makeup was done, too. Red lipstick. Hair curled. Like she was trying to project this perfect mom image. She was trying to build a case. After the kids ran off, she leaned toward the screen. "You're really going through with it," she said coldly. "I am. You're going to drag our family through court? Is that what you want?" I didn't flinch. What I wanted was a loyal wife. You made that impossible. She rolled her eyes, the performance slipping. "Jason, don't be dramatic. It was just a mistake." I interrupted. Don't reduce months of lying and sneaking around into a single word." She leaned back. "You've always been this way. So black and white. No nuance. No compromise." I chuckled. "Nuance? Jess, you were literally bouncing on your boss's lap at a work event. There's no gray area there." That ended the call. She didn't message again until 2 days later. This time, she wasn't wearing lipstick. This time, she was mad. "You're going to ruin your reputation. People at my job are already talking." Cole's furious. I stared at that text for a full minute before typing back. "Tell Cole to get a new lap dancer. I'm not coming to your rescue." I expected another insult. Another wave of gaslighting. Instead, she went quiet. But not for long. The next morning, I got a call from my bank. "Sir, we've noticed some large transfers from your joint account." That's all I needed to hear. I froze. My heartbeat slowed, then roared. Jessica had started moving money. Fast. I got in my car, drove to the branch in person, and closed what was left of the joint accounts. Moved everything into my new one. Froze credit lines. Locked down every access point I could think of. The moment I left the bank, she called. "What the hell are you doing?" She barked. "Protecting myself." "You're being vindictive." "No, Jessica," I said quietly. "I'm being smart. Something you clearly thought I couldn't be." She screamed and hung up. That night, I opened a new email account, created a secure file, uploaded every screenshot, every receipt, every message, every dirty hotel booking. This wasn't revenge. It was insurance. Because I knew Jessica wasn't done. Not even close. And when someone like her starts to lose control, they get desperate. I could feel it coming. The storm hadn't passed. It was just getting darker. I knew Jessica wasn't done. She had too much pride, too much venom in her blood to let me walk away clean. So when the legal papers came back stamped, confirming the divorce process had officially started and that I'd filed for primary custody, that's when she struck. It started with a visit from CPS. Yeah, that low. A social worker knocked on my door one morning, saying they'd received an anonymous concern about the environment in my apartment. Allegedly, the kids weren't safe with me. Allegedly, I had violent outbursts. I invited her in, offered coffee, gave her a tour of the place. Sparkling clean. Children's books stacked neatly on the shelf. Their bunk beds made up and untouched, because Jessica hadn't let me have them overnight yet. I showed her every grocery receipt, every photo. I even handed over a glowing reference letter from Caleb and Mia's school principal. The social worker nodded slowly, clearly seeing through the garbage. "We'll file a standard report, Mr. Pierce. It's protocol. But from what I've seen, you're doing just fine." I knew exactly where the anonymous concern had come from. Jessica. And I was done playing nice. I didn't call her. I didn't yell. I let my lawyer handle it. He sent a formal notice that if another false report was filed, we'd be pursuing legal action for defamation and harassment. Her response? She finally cracked. 2 days later, she showed up at my apartment. No warning. Just her, pounding on the door at 10:30 p.m. like she was owed something. I opened it halfway, locking the chain. "Where are the kids?" she demanded. "At your house. It's your night. I want to talk." I didn't move. "We said everything we needed to. You're ruining everything. You made me look like the villain." I stared at her, stunned by the level of delusion. "Jessica, you were the villain." Her face twisted. "I made a mistake. That doesn't make me evil." "No," I said. "What makes you evil is still sleeping with him even after I walked out. What makes you evil is dragging our kids through your mess and calling CPS just to win an argument." She actually looked shocked. Like it hadn't occurred to her I'd figured it all out. "You were supposed to chase me," she muttered. "You were supposed to fight for us." That hit me like a truck. The audacity. "No," I said slowly, my voice cold. "I fought for years. You just didn't notice. Because you were too busy undressing for someone else." She blinked. No tears. Just disbelief. I want my family back, she said, softer now. I messed up, but we were happy once. I shook my head. No, I was happy. You were pretending. I closed the door in her face. Not out of anger. Not to hurt her. But because I had finally reached the place she never expected me to reach. Closure. The next morning, I took the twins out to the park. We had ice cream. Caleb climbed a tree and got stuck. Mia insisted on pushing me on the swings instead of the other way around. We laughed. A lot. And for the first time in months, I wasn't waiting for the next blow to fall. I wasn't walking on eggshells. I wasn't drowning in what-ifs. I was just living. And that was the real revenge. Not shouting. Not violence. Just surviving without her. Thriving without her. And letting the weight of her choices be hers to carry forever. I woke up to the sound of soft whispers, then a moan that didn't come from me. At first, I thought it was the damn TV. Maybe Amber forgot to turn off one of her late-night romance dramas. I reached out, half asleep, but the space beside me was cold. Empty. I blinked. The glow wasn't from a screen. It was from my own bedroom lamp, dimmed, and casting slow-moving shadows on the wall. Then I saw them. My wife, Amber, bent over the edge of our bed, right where I sleep. And some guy, tall, shirtless, with his hands gripping her hips like he owned the place. Their sounds were raw, muffled, desperate. Not even trying to be quiet. On my damn bed. I couldn't breathe. I didn't move. I froze in disbelief. My heart pounded so loud I was afraid they'd hear it. My throat dried up. My fist clenched, nails cutting into my palms. And yet, I watched. She had her hair tied up the way I like it. That was my shirt on the floor. That was my cologne on her neck. And he was using the blanket I bought her for her birthday. I felt my soul dislocate from my body in that moment. I slid off the couch. I'd fallen asleep there watching a game. She thought I was out cold. Quiet like a shadow, I crawled down the hall. I couldn't even cry. Not yet. I just needed to understand. I needed to see her face. What kind of woman does this while her husband is in the house? Amber. That's who. I backed away before they noticed, walked out the front door barefoot, and sat on the porch in the cold. My phone buzzed. A text from her. Don't wait up, babe. I'm at Lindsay's. I laughed. And that laugh turned into a sound I didn't recognize. Not quite a cry, not a scream either, just a broken noise from a man who just lost his world in the ugliest way. I didn't go back in. I stayed out there until the sun rose. When I stepped back inside, she was gone. Sheets twisted, perfume choking the air, my dignity left bleeding in that room. I showered, threw every piece of her clothing into trash bags, and took them to the garage. I didn't say a word. I didn't leave a note. But I wasn't done. That morning, I visited an old friend, Danny, a tech guy who owed me a favor. He hooked me up with a couple of smart home tricks. Hidden camera, voice recorder, motion sensor under the mattress. I told him I'd explain later. I came home and set the trap. But the worst wasn't what I'd seen. It was what I heard days later. I'd been sleeping at a motel by then, letting her think I was just working late. She didn't suspect a thing. One night, I dropped by my parents' house to grab a few things. I walked in and paused at the kitchen. Voices. My mom. My wife. And the sentence that shattered me. How is your date, dear? Is he a better lover than my loser son? Amber's voice, light, laughing. Yes, Mom. And I thank you for setting us up. My breath caught in my chest. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just stood there, paralyzed, holding my car keys like a weapon. My own mother. Setting my wife up with someone else. That was the night I packed up and vanished. But before I left, I made sure to set the trap. In her bed. The bed where she betrayed me. She didn't contact me. Not for 6 months. And I didn't care until the day my mother called, voice trembling with rage, and said, "How could you do that to her, you bastard?" I sat on the motel floor in silence, trying to make sense of her words. She didn't even ask why I left. She didn't ask what her daughter-in-law had done. She just defended her. Karma had arrived. But not for her. Not yet. For now, it was my move. And I wasn't done playing. For 6 months, I didn't hear a damn thing from Amber. Not a text. Not a call. Not even a single curse-filled email, which would have been more her style. The silence was suspicious, almost too perfect. And when something's too perfect, it usually stinks. But I didn't reach out. Instead, I lived in a one-bedroom rental with creaky floors and paper-thin walls. I worked construction during the day and ran deliveries at night just to keep my mind occupied. I became a ghost with a pulse, breathing but not alive. Just waiting. See, I knew what I did before I left would eventually explode. I just didn't expect it to take that long. That trap I mentioned? Yeah. I rigged our bed to record every motion, every sound, every damn lie whispered in that house. She had no idea. The day I left, I changed the settings on our smart home system. Synced everything to my backup cloud. All I had to do was wait and check the footage every now and then. And what I saw, it got darker each time. Different men. Same routine. Same bed. Sometimes more than one at once. Sometimes while FaceTiming one and being with another. She wasn't just unfaithful, she was gleeful about it. I watched her laugh about me. Mock my job, my looks, my family. She even called me a neutered little boy during one of her wine-fueled rants with her best friend. But what cut the deepest? Hearing her say she never loved me. That she only married me for stability. I thought he'd be rich someday. Turns out he's just stable, she said, sipping from a wine glass. Thanks for the setup, Mom. That one line played in my head like a scratched CD. Over and over. I didn't sleep right for weeks. But the day karma came, that was different. It started with a call from my mother. She didn't even ask how I was. How could you do that to her? She barked before I could say hello. What are you talking about? She said you sabotaged her bed, left a trap that injured someone. What? She had to take her new boyfriend to the ER, Alex. He nearly got impaled. I laughed. I didn't mean to, but I laughed hard. It bubbled out of me like poison finally draining. Because I knew exactly what happened. That trap wasn't physical. No nails, no knives, nothing dangerous. Just a series of recorded messages that played when weight hit certain parts of the mattress. My voice edited over time. Each one revealing a little more. Message 1. Hope he's better than me. Message 2. You lied to my face, Amber. Every night. Every damn kiss. Message 3. Smile for the camera. I layered them to trigger one after another. And apparently, the guy freaked out so badly, he leapt off the bed, slipped on wine, and landed on a shattered glass frame I left near the nightstand, accidentally. That was on him. Why would you do that? Mom cried. She said she was trying to move on with the guy you set her up with? I shot back. Dead silence. You think I didn't hear you too? In the kitchen? You called me a loser. She hung up. And I sat there, holding my phone, heart pounding like I'd just run a marathon. That was the day I realized I wasn't sad anymore. I was angry, focused, awake, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. Because now it wasn't about heartbreak. It was about payback. And I had a full collection of videos, audios, and dirty secrets ready to be used. Amber thought I'd disappear quietly. She didn't know me at all. After that call with my mother, something inside me clicked. I wasn't the broken man she thought she'd left behind. I wasn't the stable placeholder waiting for his wife to come home after playing dress-up in someone else's bed. No, I had evolved. I was no longer licking wounds. I was sharpening knives. Amber's betrayal had burned through every ounce of love I ever had for her. What was left behind wasn't sadness. It was strategy. And now that she'd crossed every damn line, it was time to start playing a new game on my terms. First, I went through the footage again. Not to punish myself with more images. I had already seen more than enough. No, this time I cataloged it. Labeled it. Created folders with names and dates. I even gave them titles like Amber's Thursday Therapy and Weekend Warriors Compilation. It was sick, yeah, but it was also ammunition. Her lovers? Oh, they were interesting. One was our neighbor. Married. Another was her yoga instructor, whose wife followed me on Facebook. One was her boss at the design firm, the same one who offered me a job 2 years ago when we were all friendly. The same guy who once toasted to our marriage at our anniversary dinner. I felt my fists clench just thinking about it. So, I sent out little gifts. Anonymous, of course. One flash drive to the boss's wife, complete with timestamps. One manila envelope to the yoga guy's wife, with a printed screenshot of Amber wearing nothing but her wedding ring. And the neighbor? Well, I left a USB in his mailbox with a sticky note. Your wife deserves better. So do I. 3 days later, I heard from an old friend, Lisa. She was Amber's ex-college roommate, and a savage when she wanted to be. We hadn't spoken since the wedding. I heard about the files, she said without saying how. I kept quiet. I want in. Why? I asked, suspicious. She laughed. Because I always knew she was a snake. And I've been waiting for someone to finally cut off her head. We met for coffee the next day. Lisa handed me a folder. Inside were screenshots of Amber's private messages with multiple guys, including some during our engagement. She was cheating before you even said, "I do," Lisa said. "Thought you should know the truth." All of it. I didn't cry. I just nodded. Because by then, I had no tears left. Just gasoline. And now someone had handed me a match. Lisa became my inside woman. She still had access to Amber's social circle group chats, Instagram DMs, even her hairdresser, who apparently heard every dirty secret during appointments. "You want to destroy her?" Lisa asked. "No," I replied. "I want her to destroy herself." And she would. You see, people like Amber don't implode on their own. They need help. A little pressure. A little exposure. A mirror held up to their worst self. So, I started small. Sent anonymous emails to her job. Nothing crazy, just a couple of photos that made her look unprofessional. The kind of thing that made HR nervous. I leaked a short clip to an online forum, blurry, but unmistakably her, in our bedroom, calling me a useless sack of furniture. The video got shared. Someone tagged her workplace. Amber freaked. I knew because Lisa texted me. She's unraveling. She called the police. Filed a report about revenge porn. But guess what? Everything I released was within legal bounds. No names, no identifying information. And all from a house I owned, with security systems I installed. I hadn't broken the law. I just opened the curtain. By the end of the week, she posted a tearful Instagram video about being violated and trusting the wrong people. Comments were split, some supportive, others ruthless. Amber was losing control. And I was just getting started. Amber always thought she was untouchable. She walked through life like the world owed her something, smiling just enough to manipulate, lying just enough to stay ahead. But now, her empire was cracking, and the queen was panicking. Lisa kept me updated with daily reports. She deleted half her posts, she texted one morning. And she blocked 3 exes who were liking the comments under the video. Amber's perfectly curated online image, sunsets, smoothies, yoga poses, was turning into a battlefield of passive-aggressive captions and shady emojis. I watched it all unfold from a distance, sipping coffee and feeling more alive than I had in months. But it wasn't just her social media burning. Her job got shaky. Apparently, the HR team at her design firm wasn't thrilled with the attention. Even though she wasn't named directly, the whispers were loud. Clients started asking questions. One even backed out of a contract after recognizing her voice in one of the clips. Then came the internal review. Lisa overheard Amber on the phone screaming at someone from her firm. "They're acting like I did something wrong," she snapped. "I'm the victim here." Victim? That word hit me like a slap. I remembered her voice whispering, harder, to someone who wasn't me. Remembered how she used my cologne on other men. Remembered her laughing about me with her mother in the kitchen I remodeled with my bare hands. Yeah, some victim. But I stayed quiet. I hadn't responded to her or my mom. I hadn't posted, called, or shown my face. That silence? It drove her insane. One night, Lisa messaged, "She's spiraling. She thinks you're behind it but can't prove it." Good. That was the point. I didn't need to shout. I just needed her to feel it. The same way I did when I stood outside our bedroom and watched her betray me, while I was still breathing under the same roof. But then, something unexpected happened. She called me. Blocked number. I didn't recognize it at first. I let it go to voicemail. The message was short. "Alex, please. I know you're out there. I just want to talk." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, I almost believed it. But then she added, "This isn't fair. You're ruining everything." And there it was. Not, "I'm sorry." Not, "I miss you." Just, "You're ruining everything." Like I was the villain in her twisted little movie. I saved the voicemail, labeled it Classic Amber, and kept it for the archive. A few days later, I got another call, this time from my Uncle Mark, the only guy in the family I still respected. "She called your mom crying," he said. "Told her she's getting threats online." From me. I asked. "No. Randoms. Trolls. Strangers. But she thinks you started it." I didn't. "I know. But Alex, are you going to stop?" That question sat with me. Was I? I'd exposed her lies, her infidelity, her double life. I'd let the world see what kind of woman she really was. But the truth? It still didn't feel like enough. Amber hadn't changed. She was just cornered. There's a difference. She didn't regret what she did. She regretted getting caught. So, I didn't answer Mark. Instead, I opened my laptop, checked the folder labeled Amber, untouched, and clicked on the file I hadn't dared to open yet. Wedding vows.mp4. There she was, smiling, glowing, holding my hands in hers, telling me how much she loved me, promising loyalty, faith, a future. I watched the whole thing in silence. When it ended, I whispered to the empty room, "You killed that version of you." And I deleted it. No backup. No copy. That woman was dead. The one who replaced her? She had no idea what was coming next. 2 weeks after that voicemail, Amber made her next move. She showed up. It was a Thursday, late afternoon. I'd just gotten home from work, still wearing my dirty boots, sweat clinging to my back. The last person I expected to see at my door was the woman who'd shattered my life like cheap glass. She was standing there in jeans and a hoodie, no makeup, something I hadn't seen since our first year of dating. Her eyes were puffy. She clutched a coffee like it was the only thing holding her together. "Alex," she started. I didn't speak. "Can I come in?" I let her stand there in silence for 10 long seconds. Then I stepped aside without a word and pointed toward the couch. She sat down like she didn't know if the floor might swallow her. "I didn't come to fight," she said, fidgeting with the sleeve of her hoodie. "I came to talk. You've got 5 minutes. Amber looked up at me like she didn't recognize who I'd become. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she still pictured the man who bent over backward to please her, who worked extra shifts so she could chase her boutique interior design dreams. The man who cooked, cleaned, and defended her even when my own mother raised doubts. "Everything's falling apart," she whispered. "My job, they suspended me indefinitely. Someone hacked my email. My parents won't speak to me." "Good," I said flatly. She blinked. "Alex, please. I never wanted to hurt you. Things happened." I tilted my head. "Things happened." She nodded, and for a second, the old manipulation flared behind her eyes. "You were always so busy. You didn't make me feel seen. I felt like I was just existing beside you." I laughed. Loud. Bitter. "I was too busy trying to build a life for us, Amber, while you were out there feeling seen by half the damn city." She flinched, but didn't deny it. "I know about them all," I said. "Ryan. Derek. The neighbor. Your boss. Hell, even that greasy yoga guy." "I made mistakes," she murmured. "No. Mistakes are forgetting to fill the gas tank. You made choices." Repeated, deliberate choices to lie, cheat, and humiliate me. Tears welled in her eyes. But I didn't move. I didn't comfort her. Not anymore. "I was angry," she said. "At myself. At you. At life." "Then why did you smile during it?" She looked away. "Yeah. I saw those clips, Amber. I saw your smirks, your giddy post-game selfies, the way you toasted to your new lovers with my wine. You weren't hurting. You were thriving. Until now." "Is this revenge?" she asked quietly. "What you're doing online?" I didn't answer. Let her sit in the unknown. "Alex, I need you to stop." Now she was begging, but not for forgiveness. For silence. She didn't care about me. She cared about her image, her future, her damn brand deals. I stood and walked to the door. "You should go." She stood too, but didn't move toward the exit. "I'm scared." "You should be." Her face twisted, like she didn't know whether to scream or sob. "Are you going to ruin me?" "No," I said, opening the door. "I'm going to let you ruin yourself. I just handed you the shovel." She left without another word. When the door closed behind her, I didn't feel triumph. I felt empty, but also clean. For the first time, I'd faced her without flinching. No more pretending. No more begging for answers. She gave me all the answers I'd ever need. Now it was just a matter of time. And I had plenty. After that visit, Amber vanished again. No calls. No messages. Nothing but the quiet ripple she left behind, except now, the ripple was turning into waves. Social media was burning with whispers, reposts, and anonymous DMs. People were beginning to piece things together. She wasn't the victim anymore. She was the spectacle. Lisa kept me in the loop with everything. Apparently, the fallout at Amber's workplace had gotten worse. A few coworkers had started connecting dots, especially after someone leaked screenshots of her chats with the boss. HR launched a full-blown internal inquiry. "Rumor is, he's been placed on leave too," Lisa messaged me one night. "She's radioactive now." Good. It was never about revenge for me. Not in the beginning. I just wanted to feel something again. But now that her lies were dragging others down with her, I started to understand something bigger. She was always a virus. She infected every space she entered. She corrupted people, twisted them. And like most viruses, she wore a beautiful disguise. The messages started coming in, anonymous accounts, burner profiles, even mutual friends. One girl messaged, "I'm sorry, I hooked up with Amber once while you were together. I didn't know she was married until afterward." Another guy wrote, "She said you abused her, that you were controlling and cold. She told me she was a survivor." I sat in my kitchen stunned. She wasn't just cheating. She was rewriting history to justify it. It made me wonder how many people out there thought I was the monster. I could have responded, posted the full videos, named names, burned her world to ash in one single drop. But I didn't. Because truth? It doesn't need a narrator. It just needs oxygen. And Amber was giving it plenty. A few days later, I got an email from a podcast producer. Some relationship drama show that thrives on scandal. "Hi Alex, we've received a tip about your story. Would you be open to a private, anonymous interview? We'll disguise your voice. No names. Just your perspective." I didn't answer right away. Part of me wanted to scream it from rooftops. But the other part? The one that had been watching this slow-motion car crash unfold? He wanted to stay in the shadows. Observe. Let her keep guessing. Instead, I sent the email to Lisa. She replied, "Let me handle this." And she did. The podcast aired 2 weeks later. The story was told from a man whose wife and mother conspired behind his back. They kept it classy, but brutal. They used quotes from the kitchen conversation, even referenced the trap in the bed. Listeners were hooked. Reddit threads blew up. People speculated, argued, dissected every detail. And best of all, they still didn't know it was me. But Amber did. She posted some cryptic quotes about forgiveness and God's timing on her Instagram. She went dark for 3 days after that, then came back with a rebrand, new profile picture, new handle, new tagline, stronger, wiser, unapologetic. Unapologetic. That one word told me everything. She hadn't changed. She was just building a new mask. But this time, I wasn't the one behind it. She'd have to wear her new face in a world that had already seen the real one. And all I had to do now was wait for the next crack. Because people like Amber, they always break again. It had been a month since the podcast aired. A month since Amber tried to reinvent herself as a phoenix rising from the ashes, only this phoenix was built from lies, betrayal, and the hollow echoes of her own delusions. But no matter how much she tried to spin it, the world had already seen the footage, heard the words, dug through the dirt she buried with glitter. Now it was just a waiting game. Lisa kept feeding me updates like breadcrumbs. She enjoyed watching Amber unravel almost as much as I did. Maybe more. She had her own demons with Amber, stories I hadn't even heard when we were married. Amber stole her ex-boyfriend, spread rumors about her during college, blacklisted her from a design job once just to win some petty argument. The woman had been leaving scars long before me. But karma? She was hungry. And Amber was finally on the menu. The first crack came quietly. An old friend of Amber's, Carly, posted a TikTok story titled, "The Truth About the Unapologetic Girl You Follow." It started with a soft voice and a confession. I know what she did to her husband. I know because I watched her do it. I watched her lie, cheat, manipulate people, and then laugh about it like it was a game. The video went viral. And once the dam broke, it didn't stop. More followed. Threads on Twitter. Comments on Instagram. Private DMs that leaked. Screenshots of old texts where Amber trashed her coworkers, slut-shamed her own friends, even mocked me for being the kind of guy who cries after movies. Spoiler, I don't cry after movies. But I did cry after watching my wife laugh while another man touched her in the bed I bought. Meanwhile, Amber tried to keep up appearances. She posted motivational quotes, shared photos of sunsets with captions like, "Growth is painful but worth it," and "Healing is my new aesthetic." But her likes were dropping. Her comments section turned into a battlefield. Every time she posted, someone would tag the podcast. Others dropped snake emojis. Some went nuclear with screenshots from the past. She turned them off eventually, then made her account private. Then a radio silence. Lisa texted, "She's hiding. I think she's planning something." "She always is," I replied. But I was done playing offense. I'd made my point. Amber had spent her life constructing mirrors, surfaces that showed people exactly what they wanted to see. She was always the perfect girlfriend, the stylish wife, the fun friend. But now, every mirror was shattered. All that was left was the mess behind the glass. And then came the bombshell. Lisa called me, breathless. Amber's been dropped from a brand deal. Apparently, one of her lover's wives went public and said she was the reason their marriage ended. Screenshots and all. The company issued a statement. "We do not condone the exploitation of others for personal gain." I didn't cheer, didn't smile. I just sat there on my couch, staring at the wall, thinking about the first time I met Amber. How she tucked her hair behind her ear when she laughed. How she made me feel like the only man in the world. None of it was real. And somehow, that still stung. But I wasn't bitter. Not anymore. I had climbed out of the pit she pushed me into. I'd seen her true face, and I survived. She, on the other hand, had to live with hers. Forever. And I wasn't done yet. Because there was still one final thing she didn't know. And it was going to change everything. Amber had no idea what was coming. She thought she was crawling her way back into control, building another version of herself from the leftover scraps of broken mirrors and filtered lies. But there was one last thing I'd kept hidden. One piece I never revealed. A final card I saved for when I knew the timing was perfect. And now? It was perfect. See, months ago, right after I left her, right after I set the trap, I hired a private investigator. Not just to catch her cheating. That part was already crystal clear. No, I hired him for something bigger. I wanted to know where the money went. Because somewhere in the chaos, I'd noticed something off. Credit card statements didn't add up. Joint account withdrawals. Charges from spas I'd never heard of. Flights she said were for, work retreats, jewelry that never made it home. She was stealing from me. Not just my dignity. Not just my trust. Cold, hard cash. And the PI? He found it all. Hidden Venmo transactions. Private accounts. Even PayPal invoices labeled as interior design consultation sent from men I recognized from the videos. She was charging them for services. Some of them were married. Most were older. A few? Wealthy. Amber had turned our marriage into a business. And I was the silent investor. I never said a word. Not to Lisa. Not to my mother. Not even to the PI after he delivered the final report. Because I knew I'd only get one shot to use it. I waited. Waited until the podcast had simmered. Until her brand deals had dried up. Until her social circle was thin to dust. Until she was truly alone. Then I sent the file. Not to her. But to the IRS. With a copy to her former employer. And one final envelope with photos, statements, and screen recordings sent to her parents. Hand-delivered. Certified. It took 3 days. On the 4th, Lisa messaged me. It's happening. Amber went live. Her eyes were red. She looked exhausted. Hair unwashed. No makeup. No soft lighting. Just a raw, stripped-down version of the woman who once walked red carpets and posed in hotel bathtubs for Instagram likes. I don't know who's doing this, she said, voice shaking. But I'm being targeted. My accounts are frozen. My parents have disowned me. My legal team quit. And her voice cracked. There's an investigation now. Into taxes and other things. She swallowed hard. I'm sorry, okay? I made mistakes. I'm not perfect. But this is torture. She paused, then looked directly at the camera. Alex, if this is you, please. I'm begging you. I loved you. I stared at the screen. She was finally saying it. Not because she meant it, but because she was losing everything. And still, somehow, she thought I'd come back. That I'd drop my sword. That I'd save her from the fire she built with her own hands. She didn't understand. I wasn't watching her burn. I was watching her finally stand in it. I didn't comment. I didn't message. I just closed my laptop and stood in the quiet of my apartment, the apartment I paid for, furnished, and cleaned myself. The one where no one was lying to me anymore. The peace was unfamiliar, but real. And in that moment, I realized something. She never broke me. She built me. Not the version she wanted, the soft, agreeable one who ignored the signs, but the version who finally woke up. The one who knew how to let go. Not with anger, but with silence. That was the real ending. No explosion. No courtroom drama. Just a woman left with everything she created. And a man walking away from the ashes. Free. I gave my report 2 minutes ago for her loser lover to leave my restaurant. Otherwise, my 5 guards would take care of him. 2 minutes passed, and he didn't leave, so I made him regret with every bone in his body what he had done with my wife in my bed. That was just the beginning of my revenge on my wife and everyone who stood by her side. Standing there, fist raw, adrenaline still drowning my better senses, I watched as Kyle, the sorry excuse she traded me for, whimpered on the floor like the pathetic mutt he was. People stared. Some gasped. Some filmed. I didn't care. For the first time in months, I wasn't the fool anymore. 2 months ago, if you had told me I'd be breaking bones inside my own restaurant because my wife, Madison, decided our wedding vows were just suggestions, I would have laughed in your face. Madison, blonde, sharp-tongued, with a laugh like breaking glass, used to be my whole world. I built this restaurant, Evan's Place, for her. She said it made her feel like a queen. Turns out, she just wanted a throne to spit on me from. I didn't stumble into this nightmare overnight. It was a slow, creeping rot that ate through everything I thought was real. It started small. Madison working late. Madison suddenly getting too tired for our evenings. Madison buying lingerie but wearing it for girls' nights I wasn't invited to. And me? Like a blind idiot, I bought every lie she sold me, wrapped up in pretty smiles and gaslighting phrases like, "You're paranoid, Evan," and "You're acting crazy." Crazy? I wasn't crazy. I was stupid, blind, and in love with a woman who treated loyalty like a disposable napkin. It hit me full force 2 weeks ago when I found a message on her phone. She left it unlocked, mistake number 1. The message was simple, short, enough to knock the air out of my lungs. "Kyle, last night was wild. Can't stop thinking about you in his bed." His bed. Our bed. I remember staring at that screen for what felt like hours, the words burning themselves into my memory, carving hatred into places where love used to live. My heart didn't just break. It shattered, slicing into every part of me. I didn't confront her immediately. No, that would have been too merciful. Instead, I planned. I smiled when she walked in wearing my favorite dress. I kissed her forehead when she lied about having yoga classes. I played the role of the loving, clueless husband while deep inside, I was sharpening my knives, metaphorically and literally. Tonight was supposed to be the grand reopening of our restaurant after a major renovation. Madison insisted we throw a huge party. For us, she said, her blue eyes glittering with fake affection. For us, or maybe just for Kyle, the loser in a cheap leather jacket she snuck in through the back. The second I spotted him across the room, all my patience evaporated. I whispered to my head of security, "Trevor, give him 2 minutes to leave." Then we drag him out. 2 minutes later, Kyle was still there, laughing, touching my wife's lower back like he owned her. Madison looked up, locked eyes with me across the room, and smirked. That smirk detonated something inside me. I didn't just throw Kyle out. I made him feel every ounce of betrayal he brought into my home, my life, my heart. 1 punch, 2, the sounds of fists meeting flesh until the guards pulled me back before I did something irreversible. As he whimpered on the floor, bleeding and broken, Madison strutted toward me, not scared, not apologetic, but furious. "You're pathetic, Evan," she hissed, heels clicking sharply on the marble floor. "You think this makes you a man? You're a joke." A joke. Standing there, shirt ripped, hands throbbing, watching my wife sneer at me while her lover bled at my feet, I realized something. The woman I loved was dead, and the bitch standing in front of me? She was about to learn that when you burn a man's soul, he doesn't cry. He burns back. After the chaos at the restaurant, the night didn't end. It only mutated into something uglier. Madison stormed out after Kyle was dragged away by my guards like a sack of trash. She didn't even glance back at him. No concern. No guilt. Nothing. Just pure venom for me. I stood there, my fist still twitching, surrounded by horrified guests and shattered illusions. Somewhere deep inside, the man who once believed in forever had died. And in his place, something colder was waking up. When I finally left the restaurant that night, I didn't go home. I couldn't. Not yet. I needed answers. I drove. Aimlessly at first, letting the night swallow me whole. My mind kept playing back every moment over the past year that hadn't made sense. Late-night texts, sudden weekend trips with the girls, new lingerie tucked into drawers she never wore for me. Like shards of glass, every memory cut deeper. And then it clicked. 6 months ago, Madison had insisted we install security cameras around the house for safety, she said. We lived in a good neighborhood, no real crime, but she had been pushing hard. At the time, I didn't question it. I was too busy running the restaurant, trusting her, like a damn idiot. But I remembered something. I had set up a private backup server, something Madison didn't know about, to automatically store footage offsite. I hit the gas. By the time I reached my office at home, it was almost 3 a.m. The house was silent, dark. Madison was nowhere to be seen, probably holed up at some hotel licking her wounds, or maybe cuddling with Kyle the cockroach. Fine. Better. I didn't want to see her. I fired up the server, clicked into the security logs, and found everything. The first clip I opened was 2 months old. Madison, in our kitchen, laughing way too loud. A man's hand, not mine, reaching out to slap her ass. Madison spinning around, grabbing his belt, pulling him toward her. They kissed, hungry, shameless. I recognized the bastard immediately. Kyle. The same loser I had just redecorated the floor with at the restaurant. But it wasn't just that. No. Clip after clip, date after date, she brought him here. Into our home. Into our bedroom. One video burned itself into my mind forever. Madison, sprawled across our bed, laughing as she pulled Kyle down by his tie, whispering something I couldn't hear but didn't need to. Their bodies tangled up, their betrayal unfolding right where I used to sleep. Right where she used to whisper that she loved me. The bile rose so fast in my throat I barely made it to the trash can. I felt like I was dying, like the floor had been ripped out from under me. Every kiss, every "I love you," every damn anniversary, it all felt like a sick joke now. She wasn't just cheating. She was living a second life, mocking me right under my own roof. I sat there for hours, watching, hurting, memorizing every disgusting detail. Not because I was a masochist, but because I needed to see it. I needed to feel it, burn it into my soul so deep that when I moved against her, I wouldn't hesitate. No second thoughts. No forgiveness. Just pure, cold execution. By sunrise, I had a plan. And Madison? She had no idea the man she left behind at that restaurant was already gone. All that was left was the reckoning. And she would feel every ounce of it. By the time Madison stumbled through the front door later that morning, sunlight was already bleeding into the sky, tainting the world in dirty gold. I sat in the kitchen, waiting, my arms folded, the security footage queued up on my laptop like a loaded weapon. She looked like hell, makeup smeared, heels in her hand, hair tangled from what was definitely not a yoga session. When her eyes met mine, she froze. For a moment, just one blessed second, the real Madison slipped out, the fear, the guilt, the panic. Then she snapped back into her usual, nasty self, lips curling in disgust. What? You're still sulking? She sneered, dropping her shoes onto the floor with a loud clatter. God, Evan, grow up. Grow up. I stayed silent, just turned the laptop toward her. The screen played back one of her greatest hits, her and Kyle, practically tearing each other's clothes off in our living room. Madison's face paled, her arms tightening across her chest like a shield. She didn't apologize. She didn't cry. She didn't even look ashamed. Instead, she laughed. A dry, cutting sound that made my stomach twist. You seriously went through the cameras? Jesus, Evan, you're pathetic, she spat. What, you had to stalk me to feel like a man? I stared at her, feeling nothing. No love. No hate. Just a cold, bottomless pit where my heart used to be. How long? I asked, voice low. She shrugged, flipping her hair over one shoulder like we were discussing the weather. Long enough, she said, smirking. Maybe if you weren't so boring, I wouldn't have needed a real man. Every word was a slap. A real man. She said it like she wasn't just a lying, backstabbing piece of garbage who couldn't even keep her betrayal discreet. Like I was the failure for trusting her. I stood up slowly, chair scraping loudly across the floor. Madison didn't flinch. She looked up at me with the kind of venom that only truly hateful people can summon. You know what the saddest part is, Evan? She said, stepping closer, her perfume, the one I bought her for our anniversary, choking the air between us. You thought you were enough for me. You thought this little life you built was enough. She snorted, shaking her head in mock pity. It wasn't. It was never enough. You're not enough. I clenched my fists so tightly my knuckles went white. I wanted to scream, to smash something. But I didn't. Instead, I leaned in, close enough that she could feel the ice in my words. You're right, I whispered. I'm not enough. Her eyebrows lifted slightly, confused, for once not in control. But Kyle, I continued, smiling coldly. Kyle's a dead man walking. And you're next. Madison's fake confidence cracked for the first time that morning. Her smirk faltered. She stepped back, just a little, just enough for me to see it, fear. Real fear. Good. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't throw anything. I just calmly picked up the divorce papers from the kitchen counter, already filled out, signed, stamped. I tossed them at her feet like garbage. Sign it, I said. Or don't. It doesn't matter. Either way, your life as you know it is over. She stared at the papers, then back at me, hate burning in her blue eyes. But beneath that, deeper down, I saw it. Panic. Madison, the queen of manipulation, was finally cornered. And I was just getting started. Madison wasn't the type to surrender easily. Watching her glance between the divorce papers and me, calculating, scheming, I realized she wasn't scared enough yet. Not really. She still thought she could twist this somehow, that her poisonous charm would bail her out one more time. Big mistake. She bent down slowly, picked up the papers, and let out a sarcastic laugh. "You think this scares me, Evan?" she said, flipping through the pages like it was some cheap magazine. "You're nothing without me. This restaurant, this house, the reputation, half of it's mine. Maybe more." She smiled, wide, fake, pure venom. "I'll make sure you leave with nothing," she whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. "And when I'm done with you, maybe I'll sell this place to Kyle, just to rub it in." God, she was good. If I hadn't spent the last few days drowning in betrayal, maybe she would have gotten to me. Maybe I would have begged, pleaded, tried to work through it. But not this time. Instead of answering, I pulled out a second envelope from my jacket. Her eyes narrowed instantly. Madison always hated surprises she didn't control. I tossed it onto the table. She opened it with a dramatic roll of her eyes, then froze. Inside were printed screenshots. Messages between her and Kyle. Photos from the security footage. Bank records showing her sneaking thousands out of our joint accounts into secret ones she thought I didn't know about. Even a little bonus, messages from Kyle bragging to his buddies about how he was milking the rich idiot's wife for every dime she had. Madison's face drained of color, so fast she looked like a ghost. You can't use this," she stammered, voice cracking for the first time. "This is illegal. You invaded my privacy." I chuckled darkly. God, it felt good to see her squirm. Maybe not. But you know what matters? I leaned forward, resting my hands on the table. The court's gonna love seeing all this. Especially the part where you committed fraud. Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. "And Kyle," I added, savoring every second. "He's looking at criminal charges too. Assault, theft, conspiracy. You two really make a cute team." Madison slammed the papers down and backed away, chest heaving. For the first time in years, she wasn't in control. She wasn't the puppeteer yanking my strings. She was just a liar, cornered by her own disgusting choices. I stepped closer, lowering my voice so she had to strain to hear me. "You're signing those papers, Madison," I said. "You're walking away with nothing. No restaurant. No house. No money." I tilted my head, smiling coldly. "And if you so much as breathe wrong in court, I'll make sure every one of these little treasures goes public." She blinked fast, furious tears welling in her eyes, not from regret. "No, from losing. I'll destroy you," she hissed, voice shaking with pure hatred. "Try," I said simply, and turned my back on her. It was a small thing, turning my back. But God, it felt powerful. Madison had thrived on my attention for years, my love, my anger, my loyalty. She fed on it like a parasite. Now, she wasn't even worth my hate. As I walked away, I heard her breathing get faster, heavier, desperate. The sound of a woman realizing the empire she built out of lies was crumbling at her feet. And I was just getting started. I expected Madison to retreat, to crawl back to whatever hole she and Kyle shared in liquor wounds. Maybe even try to negotiate through lawyers. But no, Madison wasn't just a liar. She was a viper. And vipers don't just run, they strike when they're cornered. 2 days after our confrontation, I found out exactly how deep her claws still tried to reach. It started with a call from my restaurant's general manager, Jordan, one of the few people I still trusted. "Boss," he said, voice tense, "you need to get down here. Now." I pulled up to Evan's place 15 minutes later, my gut already twisted into knots. And there she was, Madison, standing on the sidewalk in front of a small crowd, reporters buzzing around her like flies. She was crying. Loud, messy, Oscar-worthy tears. This restaurant, she sobbed into the cameras, was built on my vision too. And now my abusive husband is throwing me out, stealing everything we built together. The reporters ate it up. Flashbulbs exploded. Microphones shoved into her face. And Madison? She cranked up the drama even more, dabbing at fake tears with a designer handkerchief, painting me as the villain. Inside the restaurant, my employees watched from the windows, faces pale with shock. Customers whispered, filming on their phones. The place I'd built with my blood and sweat was being turned into a circus by the very woman who spat on everything I gave her. I felt the rage boil up, hot, fast, but I forced myself to stay calm. This wasn't about fists. This was chess now. Madison thought she could win in the court of public opinion. Thought she could shame me into surrender. She didn't know I had been playing 3 moves ahead since the night I found her messages. I pulled out my phone, opened the app I'd installed days ago, and went live on the restaurant's social media account, the one with over 100,000 loyal followers. With the cameras still rolling on Madison's pathetic act, I stepped forward into the frame. The crowd gasped. Some turned their cameras to me. "Good afternoon," I said, voice steady, calm, controlled. "Since my wife decided to air our personal matters publicly, I think it's only fair I clear a few things up." Madison's head snapped toward me. I saw the flash of panic in her eyes. "Good. In the last year," I continued, "Madison Holloway has engaged in multiple acts of fraud, theft, and adultery, not just against me, but against this business." I held up a folder thick with printed evidence. "For the sake of protecting the privacy of innocent employees and customers, I won't release the footage unless absolutely necessary. But let me be clear, every accusation she's made is a lie." The crowd murmured. Madison's mouth opened, then snapped shut. "And," I added, twisting the knife deeper, "effective immediately, Madison Holloway has been banned from Evans Place permanently. Trespassing charges will be filed if she attempts to enter again." Jordan, bless him, stepped forward with a thick legal document, a restraining order. Right there, in front of the reporters, he handed it to Madison. She snatched it with trembling hands, face burning with fury. The cameras caught everything. I nodded once, then turned and walked back into my restaurant without looking back, the heavy door slamming shut behind me. Inside, the employees clapped. It wasn't just loyalty. It was relief. Pride. They knew now who had been telling the truth. Madison stood alone outside, her mascara running, reporters slowly backing away, realizing the real story wasn't about a wronged wife, it was about a lying, scheming traitor exposed in public. And me? I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clean. For the first time in years, if Madison had any sense left, she would have disappeared after that public humiliation. But Madison wasn't wired like normal people. She couldn't let things go. She needed the last word, the final hit. Even when she was broken and exposed, she still thought she could win. It took her exactly 3 days to try again. I was in my office, finalizing the paperwork to transfer full ownership of the restaurant to my name only, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in my gut told me to answer. "Hello," I said, already bracing for the next explosion. At first, all I heard was breathing. Shaky, angry. Then Madison's voice, sharp as a dagger. "You think you won, Evan," she hissed. "You think you're so smart. But you forgot something." I didn't answer. Just let her spew whatever poison she needed to. "You forgot the bank accounts," she snarled. "You forgot what's still tied to my name. You forgot I still know things that can ruin you." My jaw tightened. Not from fear, from disgust. "You're pathetic, Madison," I said coldly. "You're clinging to ashes." She laughed, a high, bitter sound that scraped my nerves raw. "We'll see," she said, and hung up. 10 minutes later, I got an alert. Large withdrawal, $49,500. Straight from one of our old joint accounts. My vision went red. The sheer audacity, the sheer stupidity of this woman. Madison really thought she could steal from me again after everything she'd already lost. But I wasn't the same man she had lied to for years. I immediately called my lawyer, Ryan, a shark in human skin if there ever was one. 30 minutes later, papers were filed. Emergency court orders. Bank holds. Freezes. Asset tracing. By sunset, Madison's accounts were locked down so tight even her scumbag boyfriend wouldn't be able to buy a gas station coffee with her stolen money. And then came the real hammer. Ryan discovered something interesting. Turns out Madison hadn't just tried to steal my money. She had also forged my signature months ago to open a private line of credit, using the restaurant's name. Fraud. Felony-level fraud. Punishable by serious prison time. When Ryan laid it all out for me, I just sat there for a second, staring at the mountain of evidence. "You want to press charges?" he asked, eyebrows raised. It wasn't even a question. I nodded slowly. "Burn her to the ground." And so, we did. The next morning, 2 police officers knocked on Madison's door at her sleazy motel room, Kyle's latest nest, and cuffed her right there on the spot. Fraud. Grand theft. Conspiracy. Madison's mugshot hit the news before noon. Disheveled. Furious. Broken. Exactly the way she deserved to be. Kyle tried to intervene, tried to play the concerned boyfriend routine, but the second the cops pulled out his arrest warrant for assault and accessory charges tied to the theft, he folded like a wet paper towel. Watching them both hauled off in different squad cars felt better than any punch I had thrown. Madison still tried to scream at me over the noise, her voice shrill and desperate. "You're nothing without me, Evan. Nothing." I didn't even blink. Nothing? No. Without her, I was finally free. And for the first time in years, the future didn't feel like a prison sentence. It felt like a clean slate. Madison had set out to destroy me. All she ended up doing was setting herself on fire. And I didn't even have to lift a finger. The day after Madison and Kyle were arrested, the world felt quieter. Not silent, not empty, just still. Like the chaos that had wrapped around my life for the last year had finally burned itself out, leaving nothing but smoke and ashes. For the first time in a long time, I woke up without a knot of dread tightening my chest. No wondering if Madison was lying. No questioning what new betrayal was hiding behind her next fake smile. Just silence. I spent that morning sitting on the back patio, a mug of black coffee in my hands, staring out over the city skyline. The sun was just rising, painting everything in a messy blend of gold and red. It should have felt like freedom, but honestly, it felt hollow. I had loved Madison once. God help me, I had loved her with everything I had. And even after everything, the lies, the cheating, the betrayal, a tiny, sick part of me still mourned the woman I thought she was. The woman who never existed. Grief has a funny way of sneaking up on you. It's not just sadness. It's humiliation, anger, loss, the death of every dream you once held sacred. I didn't just lose a wife. I lost the future I had imagined with her. The kids we talked about but never had. The vacations we promised each other. The nights growing old together, laughing at stupid TV shows. All of it, gone, like smoke in a strong wind. But there was something else underneath all that pain. A hard, stubborn core that had survived her. Pride. Not the kind that blinds you. The kind that saves you. I was still standing. Still breathing. Madison hadn't destroyed me. She had set me free. It didn't happen all at once, but slowly, piece by piece, I started putting my life back together. The restaurant needed work. The gossip after Madison's meltdown was thick for a few weeks, but customers kept coming. Some out of curiosity, most out of loyalty. Evan's place wasn't just a building. It was a piece of this community, and they weren't about to let a lying traitor tarnish it. I rebuilt my staff, cut anyone who had sided with Madison behind my back, even slightly. Loyalty was no longer a request, it was a requirement. I renovated the menu, brought back old favorites, introduced new ones. Evan's place didn't just survive, it thrived. Personally, I started over too. Moved into a new condo overlooking the water, clean, modern, not a trace of Madison's taste anywhere inside. Started working out again. Got back into old hobbies I'd abandoned for her: drama, hiking, painting, even boxing classes. Piece by piece, brick by brick, I built something stronger than what she had tried to destroy. My life wasn't perfect. There were still nights when the memories clawed at me, ugly and sharp. Still moments when anger simmered under the surface, hot and dangerous. But I refused to let her win by poisoning the rest of my life. She wasn't worth it. She never had been. One night, about 3 months after the arrests, I found myself walking through the city, just wandering, letting the buzz of life soak into my skin. I stopped at a little bar I used to love but hadn't visited in years. Ordered a drink. Sat alone. And for the first time, it hit me. I wasn't lonely. I was free. There's a difference. A huge one. Freedom tastes like possibility. And betrayal? Betrayal is just the tax you pay for loving the wrong person too deeply. But love isn't the mistake. Trusting someone who doesn't deserve it is. And now? Now I knew better. Looking back now, it's almost funny. I spent so many nights trying to figure out what I did wrong. Where I failed. What flaw in me made Madison decide to throw everything away for a man who couldn't even hold his own in a fistfight? But the truth? It wasn't about me. It was about her. Some people aren't broken because of anything you did. Some people are just broken by nature, selfish, greedy, hollow inside. You could pour every ounce of love you have into them, and they'll still turn around and bite the hand that fed them. Because betrayal isn't about dissatisfaction. It's about who they are. Madison didn't cheat because she was unhappy. She cheated because she thought she could get away with it. She thought I was too blind, too soft, too in love to ever see her for what she really was. And for a while, she was right. But the thing about real betrayal is, once it opens your eyes, they never shut the same way again. You see people differently. You see everything differently. I learned a lot during that firestorm Madison unleashed on my life. Lessons I carry with me every single day. First, if your gut tells you something's wrong, listen. Love clouds judgment, but instincts never lie. The little red flags, the late nights, the weird absences, the sudden need for privacy in a relationship built on sharing everything, I ignored them because I didn't want to believe she could betray me. I wanted to believe in us. But love without honesty is just self-inflicted suffering. Second, protect yourself. Emotionally, financially, spiritually. Trust is beautiful, but blind trust? That's suicide. I thought building a life together meant no secrets, no need for backup plans. I was wrong. You can love someone with all your heart and still keep a part of yourself guarded, not out of paranoia, but out of wisdom. Because once you give someone total power over you, it's only a matter of time before they abuse it. Third, revenge feels good in the moment, but rebuilding feels better forever. Dragging Kyle's sorry face across the restaurant floor? Yeah, that was satisfying. No regrets there. But the real victory wasn't the punches. It was watching Madison's world crumble while mine rose stronger from the ashes. Living well isn't just the best revenge. It's the only one that actually lasts. Fourth, and maybe most important, never let one person define your worth. Madison tried to convince me I wasn't enough. She whispered it in little ways for years, undermining, manipulating, lying. But standing here now, with my life rebuilt and my soul intact, I know the truth. I was never the problem. Her betrayal wasn't a reflection of my shortcomings. It was a confession of hers. A confession that no matter what she had, it would never be enough. No matter who loved her, it would never fill the emptiness inside her. And that's her burden to carry, not mine. Not anymore. If there's one piece of advice I'd give to any man who finds himself where I once stood, it's this. Don't chase the ghost of who you thought they were. Mourn if you have to. Rage if you need to. But then rise. Rise smarter. Stronger. Harder to fool. And when you do, when you stand tall again, not in spite of the betrayal, but because of it, you'll realize something incredible. They didn't break you. They built you. Not because they loved you, but because they showed you exactly who you'll never be, and who you were always meant to become. I want to stay with Mom and her boyfriend, Jason said. He lets me drive his new Corvette, and Mom said he might be our real dad anyway. My heart didn't just stop, it shattered. I was standing in the hallway, frozen, breath caught in my throat. My 10-year-old son had just said something no father should ever hear. Emily whispered, "But what about Dad?" Jason laughed. "Mom says he's weak. She only stayed with him for the house." I dropped the grocery bag. The sound made them scream. They didn't know I was home. That night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I didn't say a single word. I just walked into our bedroom, sat down on the edge of the bed, and stared at her, Nicole, as she scrolled through Instagram like nothing had happened. She looked up, annoyed. What? I blocked her credit cards that night. I took only what I needed. My passport. A few grand in cash. And I walked out of that house with my head spinning. The next morning, my daughter called me in tears. And what she told me shattered the last piece of me that was still holding on. Emily's voice was shaking. "Dad, I didn't mean to tell you like this," she sniffled. "But she's been lying to you for years." I was standing in a cheap motel room off Route 17. The walls were yellowed. The air smelled like cheap perfume and regret, and the buzzing neon light outside made the place feel like a crime scene. "She told Jason that her boyfriend might be our real dad," Emily said. "And I think it's Mr. Bennett." I sat down hard on the edge of the bed. Mr. Bennett. My boss. The guy who gave me a job when I was broke. The guy who smiled at me every Monday morning like we were family. And he was the one sleeping with my wife? "Are you sure?" I whispered, my voice barely holding together. Emily was crying. "I saw them, Dad. In the kitchen, last year. He kissed her. I thought it was an accident, but then they laughed. She saw me and told me not to tell you, or you'd leave and we'd be homeless." I clenched the phone so hard I thought it might snap. It wasn't just the affair. It was the manipulation. The way she used my own kids as a shield to keep her secret intact. I thought I was working late to provide for my family. Turns out I was working late so she could screw around in our house, while my kids learned to keep secrets from me. That evening, I drove back to the house. Not to talk. Not to scream. I wanted to see it. With my own eyes. I parked a few blocks away and walked the rest of the way in the rain. No umbrella. Just cold fury soaking through my jacket. And there it was. Through the front window, I saw Nicole laughing with Bennett. Wearing that black silk robe I bought her for our anniversary. The robe she used to wear just for me. She kissed him. Slow. Deliberate. Then she looked toward the window. I stepped back into the shadows. She didn't see me. Or maybe she did, and didn't care. I waited until he left, then walked right in the front door like a ghost. She was in the kitchen pouring wine. Oh, she said, startled. You're back. You didn't even flinch, I said quietly. Not even surprised? She smirked. You left. What did you expect? Me to cry over it? No, I replied. But I thought you'd have the decency to not invite him over the same night. Nicole took a sip of wine, leaned against the counter like she was the one betrayed. Oh, please, she rolled her eyes. Don't act like a victim. You were always working, always tired, always boring. Bennett at least knows how to make me feel like a woman. I almost laughed. You mean he knows how to cheat his wife while banging mine in our kitchen? Her eyes lit up with something I hadn't seen before, rage. Don't pretend you didn't know, she snapped. Everyone else did. Maybe you're just too pathetic to admit it. I stepped back. The truth was worse than I imagined. Not only was she cheating, she was proud of it. She wanted me to break. She enjoyed it. I already blocked your cards, I said calmly. I'll be filing for divorce this week. She chuckled. Good. Maybe I'll finally get the house. I nodded. We'll see. But inside, something broke. Not just from the betrayal. From the fact that I spent over a decade loving a woman who never existed. She was a character. A mask. And I never saw behind it until now. And the worst part? She didn't even flinch. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my car outside the house until the sun came up, watching the shadows move across the windows, wondering how long it had all been a lie. Every dinner, every birthday, every late-night cuddle where she whispered she loved me, was any of it real? No, not a damn thing. I drove straight to work. Not because I wanted to be there, but because I had to look Bennett in the eyes before I made my next move. He walked into the office like usual. Polished suit, stupid smile, the confident strut he always had. The kind of guy who's never heard the word consequence. Morning, brother, he grinned at me. Rough weekend. I stared at him. Cold. Silent. His smirk faded just a little. Something wrong. I nodded. Yeah, I know. He blinked. Once. Twice. Then tried to laugh it off. Know what? That you've been screwing my wife in my house. He froze. Silence. Then he chuckled nervously. Whoa, man, let's not jump to conclusions. You kissed her in my kitchen, while my daughter watched. You told my son you'd buy him a car. You made yourself their real dad. So don't insult me by pretending. Bennett's jaw twitched. You don't want to do anything stupid, he muttered, his tone shifting. You've got a pension, benefits. And you've got a wife, I snapped. Maybe I'll let her know how many late meetings you've had this year. He went pale. Yeah, he didn't think I had that in me. He didn't think I was a threat. Just another quiet husband he could outshine and humiliate. He had no idea I was done being the fool. I handed in my resignation that same day, but not before copying every shady invoice, every manipulated report, and every email Bennett ever sent on company time. I emailed it all to corporate. With a smile. He was fired by 4 p.m. Nicole called me that night. 14 missed calls. Left 8 voicemails. The last one was her screaming, "What the hell did you do? You ruined everything." Yeah, I did. But I wasn't finished yet. The next day, I contacted a private investigator I knew from back when I worked security. Told him everything. Asked him to dig. Not just on Nicole, but on Bennett too. I wanted to know every secret they thought was buried. I wanted to burn it all down. That night, I drove by the house again. Jason was outside tossing a football in the yard. He saw my car, ran toward it, but then stopped halfway. He looked conflicted. I rolled down the window. Hey, bud. He walked up slowly. Are you mad at me? I shook my head. Not at you. Never at you. He looked down. I didn't mean to pick Mom over you. I just thought she'd be happier. And the car. I forced a smile. You're a kid. You're supposed to want cars. He looked back at the house. She's not happy. She yells a lot. She even slapped Emily yesterday when she asked where you were. My blood ran cold. She what? Jason looked scared. Please don't tell her I said that. I nodded slowly, my mind already spiraling. This wasn't just about betrayal anymore. It wasn't just about pride or heartbreak. Now it was about protecting my kids from the woman I used to sleep beside every night. The woman who once swore she'd never hurt them. But she was hurting them. And that meant war. 3 days after I handed over my resignation and nuked Bennett's career, the private investigator texted me a single sentence. You'll want to see this in person. I met him at a small diner on the outskirts of town. Old place, always smelled like burnt coffee and bacon grease. He was sitting in a corner booth with a laptop and a manila folder that looked like it had been pulled from a courtroom. Her name's not Nicole Taylor, he said, before I even sat down. Not legally. I froze mid-step. Come again. She changed her name 10 years ago. Real name? Nicole Reeves. She has a sealed record in Nevada and a bankruptcy filing under the name Reeves in Arizona. Not only that, he slid the folder toward me. She was married before. Twice. I sat down. Slowly. You're telling me I'm husband number 3? Technically? Number 4. The first one died under suspicious circumstances. But nothing ever stuck. I opened the file, hands trembling. Photos. Court records. A restraining order filed by some guy named Mark Whitaker. Statements about manipulation, threats, even psychological abuse. Same eyes. Same smile. Same woman. My heart was thundering in my chest like I'd run a marathon. He leaned closer. Your wife's a black widow type, man. She's done this before. She finds decent guys, sucks them dry emotionally and financially, and then disappears. Or buries them. I couldn't breathe. I'd married a goddamn sociopath. She's also been meeting with a real estate attorney, he added, flipping his laptop toward me. She's trying to refinance the house behind your back. If she succeeds, you're screwed. She gets the property, and you get the debt. I stared at the screen. Nicole, no, Reeves was standing next to a man in a gray suit outside a bank. Smiling. Like she hadn't just ripped my soul in half. She wasn't just cheating. She was planning a full wipeout, erase me from the house, from the kids, from everything we built. And I'd nearly walked away without fighting back. But now? Now I had fire in my blood. I thanked the investigator and walked out of that diner with my pulse pounding in my ears. I didn't go back to my motel. I didn't eat. I didn't sleep. I drove straight to the county clerk's office and started paperwork to freeze any legal changes to the property. If she wanted war, she was getting scorched earth. That night, I hacked into our shared cloud drive. She never changed the password. I went through every folder, every photo, every file. And that's when I found it. A video. Titled only, March 17th, Hotel Room. Curiosity got the best of me. I clicked play. There she was. Nicole. In lingerie. With Bennett. They were laughing, drunk. She looked straight into the camera and said, if my idiot husband ever finds this, I hope he knows I fake it every single time. He's useless. A paycheck with a pulse. I slammed the laptop shut. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just stared at the wall while my own heart turned to ice. I couldn't believe I ever loved this woman. I couldn't believe I shared my life with someone who saw me as disposable. I was done trying to walk away peacefully. She wanted destruction? I'd give her a legacy of regret she'd never recover from. By the time the weekend hit, Nicole thought she had me cornered. She had no idea the walls were closing in on her. I'd frozen all joint assets, put the house under legal injunction, even filed for an emergency hearing to gain temporary custody of the kids. The video? The investigator's file? The restraining order from her past? I attached it all, but I didn't tell her. I wanted her to feel safe, secure, arrogant, because that's when people like her make mistakes. Saturday afternoon, she texted me like nothing happened. We need to talk about selling the house. Let's meet at 6. Be civil. Civil? That was rich, coming from the woman who bragged about faking everything in bed and called me a paycheck with a pulse. I texted back. Sure. One last talk. But I wasn't coming alone. I showed up early. Parked 2 blocks away. The PI sat in his car across the street with a dash cam rolling. And I had a recorder in my pocket, just in case. At exactly 5:58, Nicole pulled up in that ridiculous white Lexus Bennett probably bought for her. She got out dressed like she was heading to a damn date. Tight black dress, heels, that smug smirk that used to make me melt and now just made my stomach turn. She walked up the porch like she still owned everything. When she stepped inside, she looked around like she was casing her next target. Where are the kids? She asked. Safe, I said flatly. And not with you. She rolled her eyes. Oh, here we go. The victim act again. You've always been so fragile. I didn't flinch. You wanted to talk, I said. So talk. She sauntered to the kitchen island and leaned on it, like this was just another game. I want you to sign the release forms, she said. You walk away clean. I keep the house, the car, and custody until court. We both know I'm the better parent. I almost laughed. You slapped Emily. She froze, then tried to recover. She was mouthing off You slapped my daughter and told my son a stranger might be his real father. Her eyes narrowed. Don't twist things. They're my kids too. I stepped closer, eyes locked on hers. No. You used them. Like you used me. And then I pulled out the manila envelope and tossed it on the counter. She hesitated before opening it. Her face dropped. You went digging through my past? I didn't answer. Those records are sealed. They were. Not anymore. She flung the folder off the counter. You think this is going to stop me? No, I said. But this might. I hit play on my phone. The audio started instantly. Her voice. If my idiot husband ever finds this, I hope he knows I fake it every single time. He's useless. A paycheck with a pulse. Nicole's face drained of color. She lunged for the phone. I stepped back. Touch me again, and the cops get this too, I warned. Her voice shook now. You're recording this? No, I said. But he is. I nodded toward the front window. She turned and saw the PI's car. The light on the dash cam was blinking red. Nicole stared at me like she didn't recognize the man standing in front of her. Because I wasn't her puppet anymore. I wasn't scared. And I sure as hell wasn't backing down. I leaned in just enough to let her see the fury behind my calm. Keep pushing, and I'll show the kids every lie you ever told. I'll send that video to your parents, your church, every friend you pretend to care about. You wouldn't. I already did. She gasped. And that was the first time I saw her scared. The next day, Nicole was in full attack mode. She did what narcissists do best, flip the story. By Monday morning, she was posting on Facebook like she was the victim. A full-blown sob story. Crocodile tears in every line. After years of emotional neglect, I finally stood up for myself. Please respect my privacy during this heartbreaking time. All I ever wanted was to feel seen and heard. Seen and heard? Is that what she was doing in a hotel room with my boss while our kids were watching Disney Plus in the living room? I didn't say a word online. I didn't post a single thing. I didn't have to. Because the next post on her timeline was the video. That PI? He sent it anonymously to a group chat with her family and mutual friends. Her aunt commented, Nicole, what is this? Her cousin, you laughed about faking everything? After everything he did for you. One by one, her little army of enablers started going quiet. And Nicole? She lost her damn mind. She showed up at the motel that night, banged on the door like she was the FBI. I opened it just enough to see her face. Smudged makeup. Rage in her eyes. You think this is funny? She screamed. Sending that video to my family? To my church? You made the video, I said calmly. She pushed past me. Get out. I snapped, grabbing her wrist before she stormed in any further. We're done. This isn't your space. She yanked her arm free, furious. You want to play dirty? Fine. But you think this little pity tour makes you the hero? Please. You're pathetic. You couldn't keep me interested for 1 year without turning into a depressed little drone. I stayed silent. Because she wanted a reaction. She thrived off rage, off chaos. But I wasn't giving it to her. She scoffed, glancing around the motel room like it physically offended her. This is where you live now. She sneered. God, it smells like failure. I clenched my fists behind my back. Not because of the insult, but because of what came next. I filed a report with child services, she said coldly. Told them about your unstable mental state. About how you threatened me in front of the kids. Shouldn't be long now before you get a visit. That was it. That was the line. She didn't just want revenge. She wanted to destroy me through the only leverage I still had, Emily and Jason. You're really gonna drag the kids into this? I asked, stunned. She crossed her arms. It's war, remember? I pulled out my phone. Hit play. Her voice, crystal clear on the motel security footage. You think this little pity tour makes you the hero? You're pathetic. Then, I filed a report with child services. I recorded everything, I said. And I've already sent it to my lawyer, along with the footage of you slapping Emily. Remember that Ring camera you didn't know I installed last year? It caught it all. She paled. Her voice broke. You're bluffing. I shook my head. This isn't bluffing. This is me, protecting my kids from you. From whatever monster you've become. She lunged forward, smacked the phone from my hand, and screamed, You ruined my life. The motel manager burst into the hallway seconds later. I just stepped back and said 2 words. Call the cops. Nicole was dragged out, kicking and screaming. That was the last time she ever set foot near me without a lawyer present. But I knew something was still coming. Because women like her don't let go, they just get nastier. A week after the motel incident, things got quiet. Too quiet. No angry texts. No voicemails. No cryptic Facebook posts. Just silence. Which, from someone like Nicole, was never peace. It was a setup. And then it came. I was at the courthouse with my lawyer finalizing the motion for emergency custody when my phone rang. It was Emily. She was sobbing so hard I could barely make out the words. "Daddy, you need to come. Now." I didn't ask questions. I ran out of that building like the walls were collapsing behind me. When I got to the house, Jason was sitting on the front porch, hugging his knees. Emily was inside, pacing. Her eyes were puffy, cheeks stained with tears. "What happened?" I asked, heart racing. "She said you hit her," Emily said, voice shaking. "She called the police and told them you came by last night and grabbed her throat. She showed them a bruise on her neck." My jaw dropped. "I wasn't even here last night." "I know," Emily cried. "We told them that. Jason and I said you weren't even near the house. But the cops said they had to take her statement seriously. That's when I heard the car doors slam. 2 officers walked toward me. 'Sir, we need to speak with you.' Emily screamed. "No, he didn't do anything. She made it up." I raised my hands, calmly. "Officers, I have proof I wasn't here. Hotel security footage. Swipe card logs. My lawyer has everything." They exchanged glances. One of them nodded slowly. "We're aware. That's why we're here." Then he pulled out a phone. On the screen was Nicole, recorded on a hidden nanny cam Emily had set up weeks ago. She didn't tell anyone, not even me. In the video, Nicole stood in front of a mirror, applying makeup to her neck. Purple foundation, smudged in a perfect oval, like a bruise. She practiced crying in the mirror, then stared into her phone and whispered, "Let's see how he gets out of this one." The officer lowered the phone. "We're pressing charges against her for filing a false report and child endangerment," he said. Jason looked up from the porch, stunned. "She's going to jail?" I knelt down beside him. "She's going somewhere safe for you. That's all that matters now." Nicole was arrested that afternoon. Kicking, screaming, threatening lawsuits and vengeance, and "you'll regret this," like she was auditioning for a soap opera. But no one cared anymore. Not the cops. Not the neighbors. Not even her family. The video went viral in our town. Everyone saw it. Everyone heard her fake cries and smug laughter. The sympathy she'd built vanished in hours. And suddenly, I wasn't the villain in her little play anymore. I was the guy who survived it. When the custody hearing came, the judge didn't even hesitate. Full custody. Restraining order. Mandatory psychiatric evaluation before she could see the kids again. Emily hugged me so tight I thought my ribs might crack. "Thank you," she whispered, "for not giving up on us." I held her tighter. Jason sat silently on the edge of the bench, staring down at the floor. "She lied to us too," he said. "I thought she was cool. I thought she loved us." "She loves herself," I said softly. "And sometimes, that's the most dangerous kind of person." But we were free now. At least, almost. Because there was still one final thing I had to do before I could close this chapter for good. The day after the custody ruling, I stood alone in what used to be our bedroom. The house was quiet now, too quiet. No yelling, no fake laughs, no lies floating through the walls like poison gas. Just silence. But for the first time in months, it didn't feel suffocating. It felt clean. I looked around at the things she left behind. Designer heels. Half a bottle of overpriced perfume. That robe she used to wear when she wanted to play innocent. All of it was staged. Props from a role she played too well. And me? I was the idiot in the front row applauding every act, until the mask slipped. A week had passed since she was arrested. Nicole's lawyer had tried to negotiate visitation rights, but the judge shut it down immediately. The footage of her faking abuse was all anyone needed to see. She'd lost everything. And for the first time in her life, she couldn't manipulate, seduce, or scream her way out of it. I walked through the house slowly, picking up traces of the life I thought we had. Family photos. Her wedding dress, still zipped in a dry cleaner bag. Jason's school awards. Emily's old stuffed animals. Then I found the file I'd given her years ago, letters I'd written when we first got married. Honest words. Hopeful. Naive. She'd used the paper as a bookmark. The book? How to Get Rich Without a Man. That stung more than I expected. But I didn't burn the house down. I didn't trash her things. I boxed them up, shipped them to her mother's place, and changed every lock on the property. I wasn't here for revenge anymore. I'd already won. The kids and I moved into my brother's lake house a week later. A fresh start. A place without ghosts. Emily slept better than she had in months. Jason laughed again. Slowly, the shadows started leaving their faces. And me? I finally started to breathe again. One night, Emily crawled into the chair next to me on the porch. "Dad?" "Yeah, kiddo." I'm glad she's gone, but I still feel messed up inside. I nodded. That's okay. You're allowed to. She's still your mom. She lied to us. She lied to everyone, I said. But someday, you'll learn the difference between people who love you and people who need you for their own story. She nodded. Are you going to date again? I smiled, dry. One day, but not yet. First, I'm going to remember who I am without her voice in my head. She hugged me, tight. Don't worry, she whispered. We're not going anywhere. Neither was I. That night, after the kids went to bed, I sat out on the deck with a bourbon in one hand and the cool breeze across the lake on my face. I thought about everything. The betrayal, the manipulation, the lies, the fake tears, the slaps, the damn video. But then I thought about the quiet, the space, the strength I found in the middle of my own collapse. And I realized something. She didn't break me. She revealed me. The version of me I'd buried for years, silent, numb, existing in her shadow, was finally dead. What was left now was real, solid, unshakable. If you're reading this and you're in a place where everything feels like it's falling apart, maybe it is. But maybe that's the only way to rebuild something stronger. Here's my advice. Trust your gut. Document everything. Protect your kids. Stay calm. And when the lies burn down around you, walk through the smoke. Don't run from it. Because on the other side of that fire is something no one can take from you. Freedom. And it tastes better than anything she ever pretended to be. I never thought betrayal could hit so hard that your skin feels it first, like an invisible slap to the face before your brain even registers what just happened. It started with a single notification. I was sitting in the backseat of a black Suburban, coming back from a contract signing in Miami. The sun was low, slanting gold through tinted windows, and I was sipping lukewarm coffee when my phone buzzed. Instagram at Haley Grace just posted a new photo. I didn't flinch. I wasn't suspicious. I was married. 8 years. Built a home. Built a business. Shared toothbrushes, for God's sake. But curiosity nudged me. I opened the app, and there she was. Haley, in a silk dress I didn't recognize, standing on the balcony of our vacation home. Hair perfect. Lips curled in that smug little, "I'm better now" smirk she practiced in the mirror when she thought I wasn't watching. And beside her, laughing like the damn king of the world, was my business partner, Jason. My best man. My best friend. My brother from another mother. He had his arm wrapped around her waist like he owned her. Like I never existed. And then I read her caption. He makes me feel like a woman again. Kiss mark. I didn't breathe for a few seconds. Not out of drama, not out of shock. My lungs just forgot how. Feel like a woman again? You mean after all those years of me making coffee before she woke up, late night foot rubs when her feet ached, paying for her sister's rehab, building a company from zero while she found herself? Nah. The anger was electric. I could hear it, buzzing in my ears like a live wire. But here's the real twist, the part that turns betrayal into poetic justice. I had just signed the paperwork the day before. Jason didn't know yet, but he'd been legally removed from the company. I found out about his embezzlement last quarter. I gave him a chance to confess. He didn't. So I did what any real partner would do, protected the empire I built from scratch. He was done, and he didn't even see it coming. I scrolled down and saw the comments filling in like ants to a sugar spill. Friends hyping her up, people I knew, clapping for her newfound freedom. But I didn't get mad. I got surgical. I typed one sentence under her photo, the one with her glowing next to a man whose job no longer existed. Now go feel like a woman at your job interview. Posted. Logged out. Leaned back. Jason and Haley had no clue yet, but in less than 24 hours, their world would fall off a cliff. I made sure of that. That night, I didn't drink. I didn't scream. I walked through the front door of our house like it wasn't haunted with memories. I sat at the kitchen island, phone in hand, watching the fallout start to spread like wildfire. By midnight, Jason's name was scrubbed from our internal systems. By 9 a.m., HR confirmed his termination notice had been delivered. By noon, Haley's bank card declined when she tried to buy a $200 bottle of perfume. And me? I didn't say a word. Not yet. I wanted to watch them squirm first. I wanted to see her try to explain to me why she decided to torch our marriage on Instagram, why she let a man I fired 2 days ago unzip her dress like it was some kind of trophy. Let her come home thinking she still had the upper hand. Let her think she could lie again. Because what she didn't know is I had evidence. Screenshots. Recordings. A whole drive with months of texts. And a plan. This wasn't going to be a breakup. It was going to be a reckoning. The next morning, she came in humming, like she had just won the damn lottery. Wearing a white blouse I'd never seen, makeup done like she was stepping onto a set, not into her kitchen. She tossed her keys on the marble counter and smiled. "Morning, babe," she said, her voice sickeningly sweet. I nodded. Just once. Kept my coffee in hand, eyes on the paper in front of me. I could feel her watching me, testing the waters, waiting to see if I'd seen it. She was always bold, but never smart enough to realize I don't speak until I've got everything loaded. "You're quiet," she said. "Busy," I answered. Still no eye contact. She walked over, leaned on the other side of the island. "You see my post?" I finally looked at her. She wanted a reaction fire, maybe rage. What she got was a cold, clinical stare. "I did," I said. She tilted her head, faking innocence. "You don't have anything to say?" I sipped my coffee. "Just one thing." She waited. Probably rehearsed a monologue in front of the mirror, something about how I'd been distant, how she felt unseen, blah blah. The usual script cheaters used to soften their betrayal. I leaned forward. "You really think Jason's gonna take care of you?" She blinked, smile flickering. "He already is." I laughed. Short. Sharp. "He doesn't even know yet." Her smile faded. "Know what?" "Oh, you'll find out soon enough," I said, standing up. "Maybe when the lease on that car vanishes. Or when his credit cards stop working. Or maybe when his phone gets disconnected. Should be fun." She straightened. "What the hell are you talking about?" "I fired him," I said. "Yesterday. Legal papers were signed at 3:42 p.m. The audit's been running for weeks. He's finished. And since you apparently decided to bet your future on a man who no longer has one." I let that hang in the air. Her face twisted. "You're bluffing." "You'll see." She exploded. "You had no right. You can't." "I built this company," I snapped. "He stole from it. I owe him nothing." "And you?" "You turned our marriage into a circus act on social media. So no, I'm not bluffing." She grabbed her phone, hand shaking, frantically typing. Maybe texting Jason. Maybe checking his bank. I watched her crumble in real time. "Why didn't you say anything sooner?" she asked, voice shaking now, real panic setting in. "Because I wanted to see your face when it all fell apart," I said. "And this? This is better than I imagined." She looked like she wanted to throw something. Maybe herself. "I wasn't happy," she said suddenly. "You were always gone. You never noticed me." "Oh, I noticed," I said. "I noticed you stopped looking at me 3 years ago. I noticed the late nights, the perfume I never bought, the lingerie you didn't wear for me. You think I didn't notice?" She swallowed hard. "You're trying to make me the villain." I leaned in close. "You made yourself the villain. I'm just giving you the ending you deserve." And then she said it. With tears in her eyes, voice trembling, she whispered, "He makes me feel alive again. You used to, but now he does." My hands clenched. Not fists. Not violence. Just raw, tight restraint. I nodded once. "Then live with him. Go. See what it's like to feel alive with a man who has nothing left." I walked past her. She grabbed my arm, desperate now. "Wait, please, don't throw this away. We can fix it." I pulled my arm free. "You already threw it away, Haley. I'm just taking out the trash." I left her standing there, shaking, crying. Phone still buzzing with whatever news Jason was getting on his end. 2 rats scrambling on a sinking ship. The hardest part? I wasn't even happy. Not really. Because beneath the power moves, beneath the clever lines and well-played revenge, was the crushing silence of something dead long before the affair. And I was just now starting to grieve it. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in our bed, my bed now, I guess, staring at the ceiling fan spinning above, listening to the empty house breathe around me. Haley didn't come back. I didn't expect her to. I imagined she was with Jason, holding on to whatever fantasy they'd built in their delusion. But fantasy only works until reality shows up with a brick. At 2:17 a.m., my phone buzzed. I didn't recognize the number, but I answered anyway. "Dude," the voice on the other end was frantic. It was Jason. "What the hell is going on? My accounts are locked. The office won't let me in." I didn't say anything. "You knew," he said, voice cracking. "You knew about me and Haley, didn't you?" Still, I said nothing. "She said you'd be cool with it eventually. That things were already over between you two. That you were just too cold to care." I finally spoke. "She said that?" "Yeah." "Then I guess now's a good time to remind you, never trust a woman who cheats with you. She'll cheat on you just the same." He started begging. "Look, man, I messed up. But don't do this to me. I got nothing. You took everything. No, I said. You gave it to me. When you crossed that line, when you thought I wouldn't find out, when you let your ego write checks your reputation couldn't cash, that's when you lost. Click. I turned off the phone, threw it across the bed. Let the silence eat the rest. By morning, there were emails. Dozens. HR forwarding me his desperate pleas, legal forwarding Haley's empty threats. One message from her lawyer saying she'd be pursuing alimony. Alimony. For what? She hadn't worked a day in the last 6 years. I paid for everything: trips, cars, rent for her sister, bills for her father when he got sick. I even funded her attempt at a jewelry brand, which ended in her handing out crystal bracelets at brunch like they were party favors. And now she wanted compensation? I laughed, out loud, alone in the kitchen, while stirring eggs. By 10 a.m., she showed up. She rang the bell 3 times, then started pounding. I opened the door just enough to see her. Hair a mess. Makeup from the night before smeared beneath her eyes. Still wearing that silk dress. Still smelling like desperation masked with designer perfume. You ruined my life, she said. No hello. No shame. No, I said, calm, holding the doorframe. You ruined your life. I just cut the cord. You planned this, she hissed. I planned my survival. You didn't think I'd find out? You posted it on Instagram, Haley. You left a breadcrumb trail a blind man could follow. And now what? You want pity. I want respect. She snapped. My face went blank. Respect? You lied. You humiliated me publicly. You crawled into bed with someone who was stealing from the company I bled for. And now you think I owe you respect? She blinked, stunned for a moment. But she wasn't done. You were never present. You were always working. Jason listened to me. He made me feel important. I clenched my jaw. Because I was building something. For us. And while I was out building a future, you were busy playing house with a fraud. You wanted attention? You got it. But don't confuse being desired for being valued. Her lip trembled. For a second, I thought she might actually feel something real. Then she straightened. Well, you'll be alone now. Hope your little empire keeps you warm at night. I opened the door wider and gestured behind me. She followed my hand to the side of packed bags, hers, lined up neatly by the stairs. I won't be, I said. Now, please. Your Uber's waiting. She stood frozen. For a moment, her eyes searched mine, looking for softness. Maybe one final crack she could crawl into. But I gave her none. She turned, heels clicking on the pavement, and disappeared into the car. I closed the door gently, locked it. Then I walked to the mirror in the hallway, looked at myself for a long time. A man who lost a wife, a friend, 8 years of his life, but also a man who survived it all. And somewhere deep under the bruises of betrayal, I could feel the first flicker of peace. The peace didn't last. Not because I missed her. God, no. But because betrayal isn't a clean wound, it festers. It leaks into places you didn't even know existed inside you. The memories come at you like cheap jump scares in a horror movie. One minute you're pouring coffee, the next you're remembering her hand in his back pocket while laughing like your life was just a phase she grew out of. But I didn't let it break me. I had a system. Wake up. Gym. Cold shower. Work. Eat. Work more. No distractions. Keep it all moving. Then came the text. We need to talk. Please. Haley. I stared at it. Not because I was shocked, but because it was pathetic. After everything, now she wanted to talk? I ignored it. 3 hours later, another one. Jason's gone. I sat down. Not because I cared, but because something about those 2 words felt unfinished. Gone? As in left? As in ran? I called one of my IT guys. Quietly. Asked him to check Jason's business accounts. Credit usage. Location pings. 15 minutes later, I got a call back. Yeah, man. His phone hasn't pinged since 3 a.m. Last location was a motel outside Tucson. Cards haven't been used since. He's either broke, hiding, or both. Broke, hiding, or both. Well, damn. That was fast. I didn't reply to Haley. Let her sit with the silence. 2 days later, she showed up again. This time no makeup, hoodie over her head, trembling like a leaf. She didn't ring the bell, she just sat on the front step like a ghost waiting to be remembered. I opened the door. Looked down at her. What do you want? She looked up slowly. Eyes swollen. He drained my account. Took my car. I have nowhere to go. I leaned against the frame. Sounds like a you problem. She tried to stand. Please, Drew. Just let me stay the night. I'm not asking for anything else. Don't call me that, I said flatly. You don't get to use the name that came with my loyalty. She looked stunned, like she hadn't expected me to still have teeth. I made a mistake. No, I corrected. You repeated one. You planned it, slept on it, posted it. You just regret the outcome, not the act. She stepped forward. I just need a place to sleep. One night. My eyes narrowed. Go to Jason. Her voice cracked. He's gone. I smiled bitterly. Guess he made you feel like a woman, until it was time to be a man. She looked down, ashamed. And for a moment, I wanted to pity her. Just for a second. But then I remembered every lie. Every time she looked me in the eye while slipping away to be with him. Every insult. Every silent dinner. Every night I thought she was tired when she was just emotionally elsewhere, half-naked in another man's apartment, calling it freedom. No, I said firmly. I'm not your backup plan. You made your choice. Live with it. Her eyes turned sharp. She dropped the act. You think you're better than me? No, I said, dead calm. I know I am. And the best proof? I'm not the one standing outside my ex's door begging for leftovers. She stepped back like I slapped her. I closed the door without another word. Locked it. Sat down on the couch and exhaled the air I didn't know I'd been holding. Somewhere inside, the ache was still there. Not for her, but for what I thought we had. For the version of her I fell in love with. The one that never really existed. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just let it burn through me slowly. Quietly. Like a forest fire clearing out the rot. Because the truth is, sometimes the person you'd do anything for is the one who would do anything to destroy you. And I was done being destroyed. A week passed. She didn't come back. Not to the house, at least. But she found other ways. Emails. Long ones. Some desperate, some angry. A few trying to spin her story into some warped version of two people growing apart. Like that explained anything. Like you could justify crawling into bed with my business partner by blaming communication issues. The most recent one said, "You'll always be the villain in my version, but I hope one day you understand why I did what I did." I didn't reply. Not out of bitterness, because I genuinely had nothing to say. What do you even respond to that? Good luck with unemployment? Jason was still gone. He disappeared like smoke after a fire. No mutual friends had heard from him. His social media was dead. I figured he probably fled with whatever was left in his offshore account and left Haley in the wreckage. She deserved it. But here's the thing no one talks about. Even when you know they deserve it, even when you win, even when you get the house and the company and the moral high ground, it still hurts. It hurts in the little ways. Like when I grabbed 2 mugs instead of 1. Like when I walked past the guest room and caught myself reaching for the light switch because she used to leave it on. Like when I heard a song she used to sing in the kitchen and had to walk out of the damn grocery store because my hands wouldn't stop shaking. Pain doesn't ask if you want it. It just stays. But I got stronger. The gym helped. So did work. I started spending more time with the people I neglected while trying to be everything to someone who never deserved it. My mom cried on the phone the first time I called just to say hi. That hurt worse than the betrayal. A month later, I saw Haley again. By accident. I was leaving a downtown meeting when I spotted her across the street, sitting on a bench. Alone. Hoodie pulled up, sunglasses on, legs crossed. I could tell she saw me. I didn't cross the street. She didn't wave. But our eyes locked for a moment. And for the first time since all this started, I felt nothing. No anger. No sting. No ache. Just air. She looked tired. Older somehow. Not physically. Just in the way people do when they finally realize the high they chased wasn't real. That the escape plan didn't have a destination. She didn't smile. I didn't either. I turned and walked away. That night, I sat on my back patio, whiskey in hand, watching the sky darken. And for the first time, I allowed myself to actually think, not about her, but about me. About the version of me I used to be, the one who forgave red flags just because he wanted to believe in something that wasn't there. That guy was gone. In his place was someone sharper. Someone who learned the hard way that loyalty, when given to the wrong person, is just a slow form of self-destruction. You don't come back the same after that. You come back clearer. Stronger. Colder. Maybe. But better. I poured the last sip into the grass and whispered to no one. Here's to the lesson. And I meant it. A few months passed. Not in a blur. Not in a rush. Just a slow, grinding return to reality. The kind where you stop checking the door every time it opens, stop expecting betrayal to walk in with heels and perfume. You start breathing differently. Calmer. Not because you're healed, but because the wound has finally stopped bleeding. I wasn't the same. People noticed. Friends said I seemed more focused, more driven. My trainer said I had the eyes of someone with unfinished business. Maybe that's true. I did have business to finish, just not the kind that came with contracts or courtrooms. I was finishing myself. Rebuilding. Quietly. And then, out of nowhere, she tried one last time. This time, it wasn't a message. It was a letter. A real one. Handwritten. Left in the mailbox like something sacred. The envelope had no name, no return address. But I recognized the handwriting. Slanted and careless, just like her. I opened it. I know you won't respond. I don't expect you to. But I needed to say this. I messed up. Not just with Jason, but with everything. I kept blaming you, but I realized now I was scared. Scared of being invisible. You gave me a life I didn't earn, and instead of growing into it, I broke it. I thought attention meant love. I thought excitement meant happiness. I was wrong. I paused there. Laughed under my breath. She still didn't get it. She made it sound like it was just a bad investment. Like she bought the wrong stock and now felt guilty for losing the money. I kept reading. Jason was a mistake. A big one. He used me. Said all the right things. Promised things he couldn't deliver. When the money dried up, so did he. I tried to reach out to people. Everyone distanced themselves. I'm alone now. And maybe that's what I needed. To feel what it's like to lose something real. You were real. And I'm sorry I didn't see it until it was gone. I don't want anything from you. I swear. I'm working 2 jobs now. It's humbling. But I get it. I really get it. I just hope one day you'll remember me as more than what I became. I folded the letter. Placed it back in the envelope. Didn't shred it. Didn't burn it. Just put it in a drawer I rarely open. Not because I wanted to keep it, but because some memories are best left behind glass. Untouched, sealed, irrelevant. That night, I met someone. Not in a romantic way. Not yet. Just a conversation at a cafe. She asked what I was reading. I told her. She smiled. Asked if I liked it. I did. We talked for an hour. She was kind. Curious. Not performative like Haley had been. Always trying to be the most interesting person in the room. This woman listened. Asked things that didn't feel like traps. When I left, she said, I hope your day continues to surprise you in a good way. And I stood there for a second longer than I meant to, because that one line hit harder than all of Haley's grand gestures ever had. Sometimes, when you've been drowning in chaos, kindness feels like a revolution. I walked home that night without headphones, without noise, just me and the wind. I didn't think about Haley. I didn't think about Jason. I thought about how far I'd come. And how, finally, for the first time in what felt like forever, I was starting to look forward instead of back. The next few weeks were quiet. Not the kind of silence that feels empty, but the kind that feels earned. I woke up earlier. Walked without headphones. Ate without rushing. I started noticing things I hadn't in years, the way the air smelled before rain, how the barista at my usual cafe hummed to herself when she worked, how good it felt to laugh without forcing it. I kept seeing the woman from the cafe. Her name was Elise. Not in a romantic way, not at first. Just coffee. Just conversation. No pressure. No games. She wasn't trying to fix me. Wasn't impressed by my money or my stories. She didn't care about my business portfolio or how big my house was. She asked questions like, what keeps you up at night? And do you believe people actually change? And then she actually listened. That alone felt foreign, like someone had handed me a version of connection that didn't come with fine print. One afternoon, we sat at a park bench with to-go coffees. A warm breeze rolled through the trees, and I told her everything. Not the corporate version. Not the cleaned up, my wife cheated, now I'm moving on story. The real one. I told her about Haley. About the lies. About Jason. About how the betrayal felt like it didn't just shatter my marriage, it amputated a part of who I was. How I stayed quiet for too long. How I let my pride pretend I didn't care. She didn't interrupt once. When I finished, she was quiet. Then she looked at me and said, you're not bitter. You're just bruised. And bruises fade. That sentence stuck with me. Later that night, I looked at myself in the mirror. Not to check how I looked. Just to see myself. The lines under my eyes were deeper. I looked harder. Like a man who's seen some *T and decided not to fold. But I also saw something else, something I hadn't seen in a while. Hope. Not the naive kind. Not the everything's gonna be okay kind. The real kind. The kind that says, even after everything, I'm still here. One evening, I got a message from a mutual friend. Said he ran into Haley at a bookstore of all places. Said she looked different. Not in the new hair, New vibe kind of way. Just worn down. Said she asked how I was. He didn't tell her much. Just that I was doing fine. She apparently nodded. Said, I hope he finds someone who doesn't break what's good. I stared at that message for a while. Then deleted it. Not out of anger. Out of finality. Her chapter was over. I didn't need to reread it. A few nights later, Elise and I went to dinner. Nothing fancy. Just pasta and red wine in a cozy little place that didn't need to prove anything. We laughed more than we talked. I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Normal. She reached across the table once, touched my hand gently, and said, You seem lighter lately. I smiled. Because I am. And I was. The truth is, pain doesn't go away. It changes shape. It becomes a story you tell, not a scar you pick at. I didn't need revenge anymore. I didn't need closure from Haley. I didn't need validation from anyone. I had rebuilt myself, not into who I was, but into someone better. Someone who survived the collapse. Someone who now knew, without question, what he would never tolerate again. And someone finally ready to live again, not just exist. 6 months after it all fell apart, I stood on the beach at dusk, shoes off, pants rolled up, cold water biting at my ankles. No phones. No noise. Just me and the hum of the ocean stretching out like a promise too big to keep. I'd made it. Through the betrayal. Through the mess. Through every lie Haley told with a smile, and every time I looked at her and thought, she'd never do that to me. She did. But here I was whole. Not untouched. Not innocent. But whole. The funny thing about betrayal is that it forces you to meet yourself. Not the version people see. The one underneath. The part that has to decide, do I break with it, or do I build with it? I built. Not out of spite. Out of necessity. Because I owed that to the man I was before she posted that photo. Before the comments. Before the knife in the ribs disguised as a kiss on the cheek. And yeah, I kept the screenshot. The post. Her words. He makes me feel like a woman again. Sometimes I look at it, not to torture myself, but to remind myself what happens when you ignore the signs, when you give your all to someone who's only playing house. And then I remember what I wrote beneath it. Now go feel like a woman at your job interview. It wasn't just a comeback. It was a warning, a declaration, a line in the sand. Because from that moment forward, I swore to myself I would never let anyone confuse access with value. Never again would I hand over loyalty like it was disposable. Haley taught me that. Jason did too. And I thank them for it, not because they were right, but because they were necessary. Sometimes, to become the version of yourself that you were meant to be, the old version has to get burned alive. I stepped back from the water, wiped my feet, and walked toward the rental car. Elise was waiting inside, smiling softly as she saw me approach. She didn't ask what I'd been thinking. She didn't have to. She just reached out, took my hand, and held it. No pressure. No expectations. Just presence. I looked at her, then back at the ocean, and for the first time in what felt like years, I didn't feel haunted. I felt free. And if there's one thing I'd say to any man standing where I once stood, staring at his life unraveling, watching a woman he loved become a stranger, it's this. Let it fall apart. Let her walk away. Let the truth burn. Because what comes after isn't the end, it's the start of you.